Hello everyone, welcome to What If Isay becomes the freezing dragon emperor part 3. Before we start, please go support DragongodAstaroth for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 4. The Red Nova Slayer vs. The Trickster God. Kuo Town, Kuo Park 3 weeks after Isay's death. Third Pav. It's been almost a month since the supposed member of the perverted trio Isay Haidu was killed, and when news reached to the students of Kuo Academy, it was heartbreaking to say the least, since the majority of the girls felt horrible on how they openly accused Isay for being a pervert. When thinking back, he truly was at the wrong place at the time, and just because they talked to the perverted duo didn't really mean he was automatically a pervert. They even felt more horrible when they remembered all those times when Isay helped them out around school, and how polite they were when they ran into him when he was working in the convenience store. The boys were also saddened since he wasn't some pretty boy who was trying to steal any of the girls. Even the perverted duo Mitsuda and Motohama were saddened by the news, since a part of them felt guilty because they thought since he was considered a pervert because of them was the reason why he was murdered. And they're not entirely wrong, but since then they cut back on their perverted antics a bit and have begun to look on more favorably. But the one who was the most devastated was a young beautiful girl with white hair and blue-green eyes. She mostly wears a Kuo Academy girls' school uniform. This girl was Momo A.K.A, a member of the student council and one of Sona Citri's bishops, and a good friend of Isay Haidu. When news struck of what happened, she was completely devastated because she knew the actual truth on how Isay really died. The official story on how Isay died was from a mugging incident when actually he was killed by a fallen angel who was after him since he supposedly had a powerful sacred gear. But when Rias came in to arrive to hopefully save Isay and make him a part of his peerage, his body was teleported away by an unknown party. This kind of made Momo angry at Rias since she felt that she could have done more to make sure Isay could have been killed, but her king Sona explained that they couldn't intervene even they wanted to, since they didn't know the nature of their mission until it was too late. Even if that was the case, Momo was still heartbroken and devastated of what happened to Isay, since after everything he did for her, from saving her from being raped to trying to help her recover from the experience. During those times, Momo developed a crush for Isay, but was too shy to tell him her feelings. The only reason why she joined to be member of Sona's peerage was so that she could become stronger in order to protect Isay, as a way of repaying him for all the times he has helped her. But now that goal fell to her since Isay wasn't here anymore. Even though his body was missing, both Sona and Rias concluded that with those wounds, it will literally take a miracle for him to survive, in which whoever took Isay's body most likely already just away whatever sacred gear that he had inside him. Right now, Momo was currently at the park in front of the fountain where Isay was murdered. Ever since he disappeared, Momo would come here often in hopes by some miracle she could find a way to find Isay, but it has become more or less a place to grieve and cry over the loss of her friend love interest. Momo. Crying, I didn't want this to happen to you, Isay. I didn't want you to get dragged into the supernatural world like this. I didn't even get the chance to tell you how I felt about you, and thank you for everything you've done for me. Just why did you have to go on that date? Concerned Momo-senpai. Momo. Startled, huh? Behind her was a petite girl with white hair and gold eyes. The front of her hair has two long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back has a short bob cut. She also wears a black cat-shaped hair clip on both sides of her hair. She wears the Kuo Academy girls' school uniform without the shoulder cape. This girl was Kaneko Taoju, a first year in Kuo Academy and the rook of Rias Gremory. She was another person along with the rest of the people in Rias, and Sona's peerage was heartbroken from the news that Isay died. Even though she wasn't close to Isay, or at least not as close as Momo, he had always treated her with kindness and would often give her snacks whenever she ran out or forgot to restock. She was also a frequent customer at the convenience store where he would work at, and he would always let her know when they would be able to restock on sweets and make sure to have some saved up just for Momo. Surprised Kaneko, what are you doing here? Kaneko. Serious, I was on my way back from the convenience store. Sadden, it's not the same without Isay senpai there to help me restock. Momo. Sadden, I see, so you also miss him too, huh? Kaneko. Nods. Momo. Sadden, well, even though I don't fond of Rias right now, since I feel like there had to be something done in order to save Isay's life. I don't believe he's dead. I know Isay is the type of guy who wouldn't let himself to be killed like that, sacred gear or not. Hopeful, just like I know he'll come back one day. I just know Isay will. Smirk, so that is his name, Momo. Kaneko. Surprised, huh? When Momo and Kaneko looked behind, there was a handsome man with eyes similar to that of a delinquent's. He has light blue hair that floats behind him with two small shoulder-length bangs. He also has 3 blue jewels on his forehead and yellow earrings. He wore a robe that was pure white and radiated divine energy. This was the evil Norse god Loki, who came to investigate the energy signature of the Red Dragon Emperor, in which his findings led him to Kuo, which is populated and run by the 2 heiresses of the 4 current devil kings. Momo. Serious, who are you? Loki. Smirks goodness me, where are my manners? I am the Norse god Loki, and it seems you young devils seem to know who I am looking for. Kaneko. Serious, we don't know who you are talking about. Momo. Serious, even if we did we wouldn't tell you. Besides, you are trespassing on devil territory, you being here uninvited can be considered hostile. Loki. Laughs, oh but my young maidens, you do know who I'm looking for. Momo. Kaneko. Confused, huh? Loki. Smirks, you see, about a month ago I heard someone praying to be giving a second chance at life that originated here. By my surprise it was the host of the Red Dragon Emperor. I am a bit ashamed of myself for not reacting quickly enough, since having the Red Dragon Emperor in service to me would be a huge help for my plans to initiate Ragnarok. Momo. Kaneko. Mind, shocked Isay senpai is the Red Dragon Emperor. Loki. Smirks, giving your expressions, you didn't know. Anyway, about a day or two ago I felt the energy signature of the Red Dragon Emperor from somewhere in a different dimension, though a lot more powerful than before, which could be a real hindrance to my plans, but I needed something to draw him out, or as a bragging chip, in order to sway him into my service. Just my luck I find you talking about him and seem to have a real connection with him which I can use to get him on my side. Momo. Mind, shocked Ice is alive, I knew you wouldn't die on me like that, Ice. Kaneko. Mind, shocked Isay senpai is alive, I need to find him. Momo. Serious, we won't let you use us to get to Isay. Kaneko. Serious, while getting into a fighting stance I won't let you hurt Isay senpai. Loki. Laughs, oh my dear girls, I believe you don't have a choice in the matter. Snap, but that snap of his fingers 3 creatures came out of the wood surrounding the park. The creatures had the appearance of a giant wolf with ash gray fur, standing at about 10 meters tall, with 2 of them being half the size of the first one. This wolf was Fenrir, the son of Loki, as well as a heavenly beast, which has the ability to kill gods with his fangs and claws, as well as being part of the top 10 strongest beings in existence. The smaller ones were his sons Hati and Skoll. Loki. Smirks, don't even bother trying to call your masters and peerage members, since I already place a barrier in this area, so no one knows what's going on. Besides, even if they do get here it wouldn't change the situation that you are in now. Seeing that Loki was right, as well as not wanting their masters and peerage members getting killed, as well as seeing neither of them being stand up against 3 heavenly beasts let alone a god, they surrendered, hoping what Loki was true, that Isay may be a lot stronger, in which he can hopefully save them from this mess. Loki. Smirks, good girls. Momo. Mind, nervous, I know you will find a way to save us, Ice. Kaneko. Mind, nervous, save us Isay senpai. But that Loki casted binding spells on both Momo and Kaneko to keep them restrained. Once they were restrained, Loki casted a magic circle that would take them all to the dimensional gap, so they locate Isay. Scene change. West Genetics, Hangar 14. Isay Pav. It's been a day since me and Satellizer had that fight with Ingrid, as well as me giving Atcha that warning to stop fucking with me, though knowing how stubborn some of these girls, they'll probably find a way to get to me. I was currently in my garage with Arthur and Keho. Since there was no classes today, I would normally just chill in my garage, working on either of my cars or bikes, or just work out and relax, but Arthur and Keho came by since they wanted questions on how I'm able such high-end skills that only Pandora can use, as well as just me being the Red Nova Slayer. Though I had this weird feeling that something bad was gonna happen, but also this feeling of that I was gonna get a dog. Keho. Shocked, so you really don't know. Isay. Sighs for the 5th time. Keho, it was literally by accident. Arthur. Raises an eyebrow, so you're telling us that when you were 6 years old you just accidentally summoned your first Volt texture. Isay. Sighs, yes, believe it or not, that's what happened. Isay was actually telling the truth, since he had no idea he could produce Volt textures on top freezing. Both him and Drake theorized that when Great Red and Ophis gave him the new body, Great Red added the stigmata components from his old body into the new one, and his draconic energy along with Great Red and Ophis draconic into the mix caused a reaction to the embedded stigmata, which allowed Isay to perform Volt texture. Hey ho. Size, be that as it may, just how long you've been the Red Nova Slayer? I mean, you were just rumor until 9th Nova Clash. Arthur. Curious, yeah, and given the time when the rumor started, that would mean you've been killing Nova since you were 8. Isay. Serious. Arthur. Keho. Shocked, no way. Isay. Raises an eyebrow, I've been wondering how that rumor about me got started anyway. Keho. Nervous, it kind of became a huge chain of whispers that started from a Pandora from Chevalier, who said that saw you killing a Nova 8 years ago. That report did not go to HQ, but started to leak to all of the genetic academies around the world, to principals, to teachers, to students. You've essentially become a legend overnight. Arthur. Serious, but that can't be, since there was Nova sighting 8 years ago, was there? Isay. Sighs sadly, yes there was. Arthur. Keho. Gasped. Isay. Serious, what I'm about to show you is considered classified, but since I essentially revealed myself it won't really matter. The only other people I showed this to was Yumi and Elies sensei, so I don't know if you two want to relay this info to everyone until it is 100% safe to say it out in the light. It was then I took out my communicator and showed the holograms of all of the destroyed nova I've taken care of in the past 8 years. Hey ho. Shocked, what are these images? Isay. Serious, this is essentially the source of the rumors about me as the Red Nova Slayer. You see, there have been only 9 official Nova sightings encounters, but in actuality there have been about 29 encounters in total. What I've been doing is killing all of the Nova that Chevalier couldn't detect and slipped under their radar. Arthur. Gulps nervously, and how many have you killed? Isay. Serious, 21. Both Keho and Arthur were both shocked and amazed by what Isay said, since they thought that their classmate who was in the year as them was able to kill that many Nova, which is definitely more than any Pandora can do in their lives. But when Isay reached the last picture, both Keho and Arthur had the same reaction that Yumi and Elies had when they saw it. Arthur. Horrified, no way, Isay, did you really? Keho. Horrified, how are you still alive? Isay. Serious, by pure will and determination to win and come back alive. Arthur. Gulps nervously, but 6 of them, if that were to really happen, then it would probably take every Pandora on the planet to hopefully stand a chance against them. Keho. Nervous, and you did it all by yourself? That would make you the most powerful Pandora in the world. Isay. Shrugged shoulder, I guess so. After both Arthur and Keho finally calmed down from all the things I've done as the Red Nova Slayer, they decided to ask the next obvious question. Keho. Curious, hey Isay, I was wondering, how were we able to renovate this hangar and be able to afford all these bikes and cars? Arthur. Curious, yeah, I've been meaning to ask that, but I didn't know how to bring it up. Are you loaded or something? I mean, I know that your grandfather is famous Django Awe, but even I think he's that loaded. Isay. Sigh sadly, you see, after my sister passed away I ran away from home and decided to get away from anything related to the Aoi family. Smiles fondly, luckily I ran into a loving couple that after hearing my story took me in and made me their son, and I was fairly happy for a time, since I finally felt like what it was like to have a normal family. I even have an older brother and younger sister that I look up to and adore. During my time with them I traveled around the world exploring what the world has to offer, where I got into one of my hobbies. Arthur. Keho. Confused, hobby? Isay. Smiles while nodding, yup, while traveling I became an avid street racer. Arthur. Keho. Shocked, you were a street racer? Isay. Chuckles, that's right, I even got my name that became pretty popular in the various underworlds in the world. To everyone I was known as the Red Dragon Emperor. Poor mother, she honestly hated it when I indulged in those activities, especially me going clubbing afterwards, but my father and older brother were so damn proud of me for being a complete badass. Though after first half of high school I decided it was time to return home, in which my grandfather scolded me for making him so worried, and when it was time for me to come to West Genetics, he told me I wasn't allowed to go to any more street races or go out clubbing during my time here. Arthur. Keho mind, sweat drops, his parents let him go street racing, as well as go clubbing afterwards. Isay. Smiles, but as for the hangar renovation, you can thank my father for that, since he was kind enough to renovate this place for me as a gift when he found out that I was to have vehicles stored here. The same thing with my first bike, and my mother gifted me with my first car, which I treasure always. As for the vehicles I purchased myself from the money I saved up from all of my street races. Arthur. Amazed, wow, that's pretty amazing, but I bet since you're not street racing anymore, you've probably ran out of money, huh? Isay. Smiles, nope, I still have enough money to last me a lifetime. Keho. Shocked, just how much money do you have? Isay. Thinking, let's see, last time I checked about 13,500,000,000 yen, give or take. A third. Keho mind, shocked, he's fucking loaded. Meanwhile in Tokyo, freezing verse. Bird Pav. In the forest of the outskirts of Tokyo near Mount Fuji, a dimensional portal opened up out of nowhere, and what were 4 beings, the first being the Norse god Loki with his son Fenrir and grandsons Hadi and Skoll, and the last 2 were Momo A.K.A. and Kaneko Tauju, being used as bait to lure in Isay, who was the Red Dragon Emperor. Loki. Smiles, I must say this dimension is quite interesting indeed, especially from what I can tell the supernatural no longer exists here. I can easily take over this world for myself, especially with the Red Dragon Emperor at my side, it would be no problem. Looks into the sky with annoyed, but that being out there is sure quite annoying and could be a hindrance indeed. Kaneko mind, surprised, a sage energy seems purer here than back in our world. Could it be that since the supernatural years ago it gave time for the earth to heal? Nervous, can I really use that? Nods fearfully, no I can't, or else I might go insane like her. I just have to hope Isay senpai can't save us. Loki. Smirks, well, no matter, get ready my pets, since I'm pretty sure you'll have to play with the Red Dragon Emperor in order to make him come to our side. But that said, Loki released enough of his divine energy in order to draw in the Red Dragon Emperor. Loki. Smirks, now we wait. Meanwhile back in Hangar 14, as Isay was telling both Keho and Arthur stories from his travel and training, both him and Drake felt a huge wave of divine energy which shocked them, since they damn well know that the supernatural doesn't exist in this world anymore. Isay. Shocked it can't be. Keho. Concern Isay, are you okay? Arthur. Concern, yeah man, you look like you've seen a ghost or something. Isay, mind, serious Drake, you felt that too right? I'm not imagining things. Drake. Serious, I felt it as well, and there's no doubt about it, there's a god in this dimension, and something tells me it was from our world. Isay, mind, confused, from our world. But how is that possible? There's no way, we've made sure that no one from our world would figure out this place, especially people from the Keho's brigade. Isay. Serious, I have to go. Arthur. Keho. Confused, huh? Keho. Confused, but Isay. Isay. Serious, while getting on his bike, I don't have time to explain. Vroom. But that engine running. Isay took off full speed leaving West Genetics. Some of the students and staff who saw Isay leaving on his bike were wondering why he was leaving in such a hurry and with a worried expression on his face. Once Isay was far away enough and made sure there were no eyes on him, he opened a magic circle in front of him near the location where the energy was coming from. Scene change. Outskirts of Tokyo, near Mount Fuji. Once Isay appeared out of his magic circle, he immediately donned his Volt armor, since he didn't want to reveal himself as the Red Dragon Emperor unless necessary. He then put his motorcycle into his pocket dimension, so that no one would either steal it or get curious on why it was here. Once that was done, Isay got to work on placing the special runic barrier that conceals a specific area, which takes the form of a deep fog that Elsha taught, which he's been using during all those times when he fought the Nova that managed to slip through Chevalier's radar. Isay. Eyes narrowed, that's odd. Greg. Curious, what is it, partner? Isay. Serious, I'm not only sensing a god nearby, but also 5 other signatures with 2 of them being devils. Why would the devil be here with a god of all things? Greg. Thinking, do you think it's someone from the Cow's brigade? Isay. Nods, no cause, even though mom is only acting like that leader of the group so that they stay away from the gap so that dad can finish up creating the pocket dimension, it wouldn't make sense. Plus we both know that the group are only in it for themselves, and even though they agreed to follow mom's orders, they wouldn't willingly work with each other. No, these people must not be from the Cow's brigade, but from something else. Greg. Hums in agreement. Well, whatever the case, we need to hurry up and nip this in the butt before Chevalier or anyone from this dimension figures out what's going on. Whoever these people are, just them being here puts our plan in serious jeopardy. Isay. Nods, agreed, let's get this over with, hopefully we won't have to beat them up too badly. As Isay delved deeper into the woods following the energy, he felt the signature of the god that was here. He couldn't help but have this uneasy feeling that this was not gonna end well, no matter how hard he would try. When he finally reached the area where the energy signature was coming, he decided to make his presence known. Isay. Serious, I know you're here, don't even bother trying to hide presence, and the same can be said for your companions. Loki. Smirks, my, you are very perceptive indeed. Claps, but I expect nothing less from the Red Dragon Emperor. It was then coming out of the woods came a handsome man with eyes similar to that of a delinquent's. He has light blue hair that floats behind him with 2 small shoulder-length bangs. He also has 3 blue jewels on his forehead and yellow earrings. He wore a robe that was pure white and radiated divine energy. From the sides came a giant wolf with ash gray fur, standing at about 10 meters tall, with 2 of them being half the size of the first one. Isay, mind, nervous crap, he already knows I'm the Red Dragon Emperor, but how? Greg. Serious, Isay, you need to be careful, that god is Loki, and the 3 wolves are Fenrir, Hati, and Skoll. Their claws and fangs have the power to kill gods and legendary dragons alike. Do not take them lightly, you'll have to get pretty serious if you want them all down. Isay, mind, serious, right? Isay. Serious, what are you doing here? Loki, you don't belong here. How the hell did you find me? Loki. Chuckles, my dear boy, no need to be so tense, I came and I heard your prayer. Isay. Eyes narrowed, my prayer? I don't remember ever praying to you. Loki. Grins, but Isay, you did, you begged for a second chance at life because you didn't want to die alone. My goodness, if I heard, I wouldn't be surprised that every god in the world including the Christian pantheon heard it, though I was disappointed that I couldn't snatch you up before whoever you're working for could. As for how I found out, I felt your energy signature rise from this dimension about a day or 2 ago. Isay, mind, panicking, crap, I'm the one who led him here, and what he says is true, then other gods along with the biblical faction must have heard and sensed me as well. Goddamn it, I might have accidentally created a fuckfist of biblical proportions. Greg. Serious, relax, Isay, there's no proof that the other gods could have heard what happened to you or felt you releasing your power. Remember, he's a trickster god, so he might be telling you this just to get you all riled up. Isay, mind, breaths, you're right, Drag, I can't let Loki get to me, or else I'm a goner. Isay. Serious be that as it may, you are still not welcomed here. Norse god, leave now and do not speak of this to anyone, or else I promise you the full wrath of the Red Dragon Emperor. Loki grins. Why my dear boy, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to offer you a deal. Isay eyes narrowed. What kind of deal? Loki smirk. Simple, serve under me and help me take over not only this world but also start Ragnarok in our world. It's as simple as that, and in exchange I will allow you to free reign in both worlds. Isay serious. Sorry, I'll pass. This world is under my protection for the time being and I will not help you destroy my home. Loki sighs. I was hoping not to use this card, but since you leave me no choice. Snap. But the snap of his fingers, a magic circle appeared next to him and out came two people that Isay recognized. It was his friend Momo and Keno, who were all chained up. The sight caused Isay's anger to boil to unreachable levels. When Momo and Keno came, they saw Loki talking to someone in strange red and black armor. Momo Keno mind, curious, who is that? Isay growls in anger. Loki, I will tell you this, only once released, those two leave here and never come back. I assure you don't want this fight, cause I can't assure you that you'll live to see the end of today. Loki laughs. You sure are an interesting and amusing Red Dragon Emperor. I will tell you that, but even if you have a weapon that is meant to kill gods, there hasn't been any Red or White Dragon Emperor that has been able to kill one in history. Momo Keno mind, shocked. That's Isay. Isay growls in anger. Well, unlike my predecessors, I'm built differently, so then last chance Loki releases them or suffer my wrath. Loki smirk. Seems someone needs to learn their place. Fenrir, Hati, Skoll, go play with your new chew toy. It was then Fenrir, Hati, and Skoll all jumped in order to get the drop on him. In response, Isay summoned Draconic Revolution and used acceleration to dodge their initial attack. Loki smirks. Impressive. That was when Isay appeared behind the giant wolves and activated Tempest Turn and created 15 copies of himself and attacked all three of them simultaneously, which sent all three of them. This shocked Loki as well as Momo and Keno, since they didn't think Isay would be this strong to take down three heavenly beasts so fast and easily. But Loki regained his composure since he knew it would take more than that to take down Fenrir and his sons, and just like he predicted, Fenrir and his sons got back up ready to fight again. Loki laughs. It's going to take a lot more than a few good swings in order to bring them down. Isay serious. Then I better get a bit more serious. It was then Isay started channeling his draconic energy in his sword, and not wanting to take any chances, he summoned the boosted gear and started boosting and transferring it to the sword. Once it was done, Isay downward slashed his blade in front of Fenrir and his sons and roared out his attack. Isay roared heavenly draconic slash. It was then a huge red beam of pure of draconic energy engulfed Fenrir, Hati, and Skoll, along with a majority of the forest, and caused an earthquake and energy spike that was felt all throughout Japan, which greatly shocked Loki to a degree, since they didn't think that this generation's Red Dragon Emperor would be able to pull off such a powerful attack, which made him 10 times more dangerous. All the while both Momo and Keno were in complete awe in Isay's power that was no doubt of a level of a Satan class being or even higher. This gave them hope that Isay can actually save them. When the blast finally died down, the forest where Fenrir and his sons were completely gone with no trace of it in general. All the while the creatures in question were down on the ground, coughing out a bit of blood. They weren't dead, but they were out for a while. Seeing how dangerous Isay was, Loki took advantage of Isay being distracted and fired a magic blast right at him in hopes he would take him out. Loki serious. It would seem that you are far too dangerous to be left alive, and as such I need to take you out. But Isay saw the attack coming, and just as the attack was about to hit him, he activated his illusion turn and appeared on Loki's left side and kicked him right in the abdomen and sent him flying a bit away while hitting a couple trees along the way. Once Loki was far away enough, Isay quickly ran over to Momo and Keno and began undoing the binding spell that Loki placed on them. Isay serious. Once undo the binding spell, you two need to hurry and get out here. Momo hopeful. Isay, is it really you? Keno hopeful. Is it really you, Isay senpai? Isay serious. Yes, it's really me, and as much I want to sit around and catch up, we sadly don't have time since that kick I gave him will only boom. Isay annoyed. Shit. It was then Loki shot up in the air with an enraged expression on his face. Loki enraged. You dare attack me, you damn dragon. Isay serious. Well, points away quickly, both of you get out of here while I take care of him. Momo worried. But Isay, what about you? Isay serious. I'll be fine, now hurry up and go. It was then both Keno and Momo started running from the area while Isay spreaded his dragon wings and flew up to Loki to hopefully finish this once and for all. Loki, seeing Momo and Keno running away, saw this as the best chance to damage Isay to finish him off for good. Loki annoyed. Oh no, you two don't. Fenrir, Hati, Skoll, I believe it's time for you three to have a nice juicy treat. And as on command, Fenrir and his sons had their eyes shot wide open and began charging right towards Momo and Keno. Seeing this, Isay quickly tried flying towards them to intercept Fenrir and his son's attack, but Isay, frustrated, goddammit, jump blurg. What Momo and Kaneko saw would no doubt haunt them for the rest of their days. It was Isay bleeding from Fenrir biting down on his arm, while Hadi got the other arm and Skull taking one of his legs. Momo, horrified Isay. Kaneko, horrified Isay senpai. Isay, coughs out blood, run. Momo, Kaneko, horrified. Isay, roars, I said run, goddammit. Hearing Isay's voice raised at them, they reluctantly did as he said and ran towards the edge of the barrier to escape. Loki, seeing this, had a dark grin on his face. Since he had no need for those devils anymore, he decided to get rid of them. Loki grins, now then, I can't you two leave now. Not when the fun has just begun. That was when Loki fired a magic blast towards Momo and Kaneko. Momo, seeing this, she used all the magic that she could muster and summoned a magic circle to protect herself and Kaneko, while Kaneko took advantage of her abilities as a rook and raised her defenses to as high as she could. Boom, Isay, concerned Momo, Kaneko. When the dust settled, Isay saw that Momo and Kaneko were bruised and their clothes torn and blown off in certain places, but were otherwise alive. But even though he knew they were still alive, he was pissed because Loki did something that you should never do to a dragon, and that to hurt the people that he cares for, and now he was gonna feel the wrath of a dragon god. Isay growls in anger. Loki, curious. Isay growls anger, I warned you what would happen if you didn't leave, but you didn't listen. I tried being civil with you, but you ignored my warnings and hurt the people I care about, roars in anger, and for that you must pay with your life. It was then Isay released a huge amount of his power that was able to knock off Fenrir and his sons off of him. Loki was beyond shocked, since no host of either of the heavenly dragons should have this much power. He began to wonder on who the hell did he just piss off. Isay's power was so immense that it was felt throughout the entire world. Everyone was wondering what was causing this huge surge of power, and everyone in West Genetics were on the ground again trying to catch their breath, but they knew thing for sure, and that was they felt power before, but it was more intense and was filled with unrivaled rage. If Isay didn't make it so that the barrier was strong enough to withstand a heavenly class being, then the barrier would have completely shattered with the initial burst. It was then Isay's body started to change, and his voice became a lot more draconic and cold that would make a god like Loki shiver in fear. Isay, draconic, cold, I, who shall awaken, am the Red Dragon Emperor who has conquered the principles of domination set forth by God. I walk a path that surpasses the infinite possibilities and the everlasting dream. I shall become a red dragon of the void. And I shall guide you towards the endless nothingness where you shall determine your own fate. Imperio Juggernaut Overdrive. When it was done, Isay transformed into a 30-meter tall red and black dragon with blood-red eyes with green gems on his chest, hands, shoulders, and knees. The sight alone made Loki instincts scream at him to run away and to make sure that this dragon could not find him no matter what. Loki, shaking in fear, just what the hell are you? Isay, draconic, growls. Loki, enraged, answer me, you filthy beast. Isay, draconic, cold, your death. But those two simple words, Loki's blood ran cold. He wanted to run away and hide in the deepest hole in existence, since not even the entire Norse faction can bring down this dragon, but he knew he couldn't outrun this dragon even if he wanted to, so muster up whatever strength he could and put up his last stand. Loki, serious though I will admit your power is impressive for a mere dragon, do not forget that I am a god, and as such, I will not be defeated by the likes of you. Isay, draconic, growls. Loki, annoyed, I will teach you to disrespect me. It was then Loki started to shoot a barrage of magic blasts towards Isay, who was unfazed by the attack. But before any of those attacks could land on Isay, his body started to glow jet black and said something that would seal Loki's fate. Isay, draconic, cold, nullify. Loki, shocked, what? But that simple command, all of the magical attacks that Loki shot Isay disappeared into nothingness. Finally, having enough of Loki's existence, Isay flew up to Loki at such high speeds that Loki himself didn't realize that his arm was chopped off. Loki, screaming while holding his arm in pain, ahhhh. It was then Loki started to roll around in pain, since this has never happened to him before. All the while, Isay had Loki's severed arm and mouth, in which he burned into ashes. Seeing the Norse god of mischief rolling around on the ground like a child, Isay decided to put an end to his misery once and for all. Loki, seeing Isay slowly walk up towards him with each step being felt like an eternity coming along for his inevitable death, he tried crawling away, but with only having one arm and being in a state of shock and panic, he was barely making an inch. When Isay finally got in front of Loki, all he had was pity for the so-called god. Isay, draconic, cold, any last words? Loki, horrified, you're a monster, not even a damn demon, you cursed, you're fucking cursed, I tell you. Isay, draconic, cold, I know. Loki, confused, huh? Isay draconic, roars blazing scorching inferno. But that Isay breathed out emerald green flames that engulfed Loki until there was nothing left. But thankfully for Loki, during that moment of his life flashing before his eyes, he remembered he was a god that thinks on his feet, in which he discreetly casted a spell to send a message back to their dimension, to tell the supernatural of his demise, and who did it. Since even though he was dead, he would at least make it so that there would be no rest for this boy, and he knows that there are other gods that would avenge him, not out of kindness, but since they know that a sacred gear user has actually killed a god, they would see him as a threat and take action. Once Isay knew that Loki was no more, he disabled the flames and returned back to his human form with a blank expression on his face. It was then Drag spoke up, feeling concern for his host and little brother. Drag. Concern, are you alright, Isay? Isay. Serious with his eyes closed, I'm fine. Drag solemn, he left me with no choice. Looks at Momo and Keno, let's get those two back to the hangar and get them patched up. Drag. Serious, what about those three? It was then Isay looked to his left and Fenrir and his sons cowering in fear like pups after witnessing Isay's power and seeing him kill their master. Hopefully not wanting to shed any more blood, Isay walked over to them, which caused them slowly back away in fear and softly whimper in terror. Isay had a feeling that Loki was forcefully controlling them, hence the reason why he held back a bit while fighting. His theory was proven right when Loki ordered them to attack Momo and Keno when they obviously weren't fully recovered yet. Isay. Serious, given that I know who you three are and have lived long enough to understand what I'm saying, I'm giving you two options. Fenrir haughty skull. Curious with a head tilt him. Isay. Serious, the first one being that I send you three back home to our world, but I will erase your guys' memories of this dimension and where I am. Fenrir haughty skull. Isay. Smiles softly, the second is that you three live and serve under me, in which I will make sure all three of you are taken care of properly, and I promise that I won't ask you to put your lives at risk for my goals. So the choice is yours. This caught the three legendary beasts by surprise, the fact they were given a choice to do something of their volition. Ever since being born, the beasts of legend have never had a chance to actually think about what they wanted to do, since they were only taught to obey and destroy, which was no surprise since Loki created Fenrir to be his secret weapon for Ragnarok, the same being for Hati and Skoll. But here was this boy that they just met and fought, and despite actually killing people he cares about, he still has enough compassion to spare them. As the three wolves looked at each other to decide what they were gonna do, they looked into Isay's eyes and saw that unlike Loki, Isay's were filled with compassion and honesty. Despite seeing a deep sadness and a sense of loneliness, they knew that Isay would honor his word. After a few minutes, the wolves made their decision, in which Fenrir walked up to Isay, and after looking into his eyes one last time, he began to happily lick Isay's face, signifying that they wanted to stay with Isay. As they heard Isay smiling and laughing, both Hati and Skoll soon came up to Isay and tried licking him as well. Isay laughs happily. Okay, I get it. So you three want to come home with me. Smiles, in that case help me carry these two since I'm still pretty sore from those bites you three gave me. But that command, both Isay and the three wolves went over to Momo and Keno, in which Isay placed both of their bodies on top of Fenrir and Skoll. Once that was done, Isay disabled the barrier in the forest and opened a magic circle in which everyone was on top of. Isay smiles, alright, I hope you three like your new home. Scene change. West Genetics, Hangar 14. 2 hours later. Momo and Keno have been out cold for about 2 hours, but thanks to them being devils, their bodies were able to heal fairly quickly, and that it all depends on the mind whether or not they would wake up anytime soon. But something caused them, or at least one of them, to awaken a bit quicker than expected. Both started to wake up from the smell of food being cooked. As the two reincarnated devils started to open their eyes to see themselves laying on some couches as well, their bodies healed and bandaged up. When they started to look around, they were in some kind of hangar that was made into a makeshift loft of some kind. Momo Keno. Curious, where are we? Isay smiles, ah good, you two are finally awake now. Momo Keno turn their heads, huh? Both of them turned around to see a young handsome boy around their age, with black spiky red fringes along the side, and he had red crimson eyes. He was completely shirtless, but had bandages around his body signifying he was in a battle. He wore black jeans with matching combat boots. Both of the girls couldn't help but blush madly at the sight of the man in front of them. He had just finished cooking a meal in which he brought it over to them. Isay smiles, eat up. Momo. Serious, who are you? Where are we? Where's Ice? Keno. Serious, I would like to know where Isay senpai is. Having an annoyed expression on his face, the man pinched Momo's cheek, which caused her to groan in pain. Isay annoyed, honestly Momo, I'm gone for almost a month, and the first time we meet each other in so long, I risk my life to save you and Keno, and this is the thanks I get. Momo rubs her cheek, ow, that really hurt Ice, you know I hate it when you eyes widen in realization. Ice, is that really you? Keno shocked, Isay senpai. Isay smirks, why of course, who else would it be? It was then Momo began breaking into tears and jumped onto Isay, happy to see her friend and love interest alive and well. Momo sobs, it's really you, Ice. I knew you were okay, I just knew it. Do you have any idea how broken I felt when I thought you died? Isay smiles while groaning, out easy there Momo, I'm glad you're okay and you're probably happy to see me, but I got pretty bruised up you know. It was then Isay felt another soft embrace coming from his right, and when turned to it, he saw Kaneko hugging his arm and not wanting to let go. Isay surprised Kaneko. Kaneko concern, I'm happy you're alive Isay senpai, getting snacks is not the same without you. Isay smiles softly while stroking her hair, I'm sorry I've been gone for so long. Momo sniffles, you better start explaining yourself. Isay sighs, fine. It was then Isay explained everything to Momo and Kaneko, from his date to Raynare, from being saved by a god to killing Raynare, to how he was asked to come this universe to help them with a war they are currently in, since the enemies would no doubt come into their world if not stopped. He decided it would probably be best not to mention who actually saved him, since he didn't want the factions bugging him. He then explained the mission that he was on and the nature of this world, which surprised both of them since no matter how they looked at it, they were in the future. It was then Isay went on to ask if they received the nun that he sent to them, in which Kaneko responded that they did and that her name was Asia Argento. She explained that the girl was completely shy and fragile and was at first nervous around of them since they were devils, but thankfully was able to get used to them thanks to Rias and her motherly nature. She even eventually allowed herself to turn into a devil and became Ria's second bishop, which surprised Isay a bit since he didn't think a nun would willingly become a devil. Isay smiles, well that's good to know, I was honestly afraid that I made a mistake sending her to you guys. Kaneko curious what you have done if we fucked up. Isay smiles, oh that's simple, I would have just killed you all. Momo Kaneko gulps nervously. Isay smiles, well except Momo and maybe you Kaneko, cause I know you two have good hearts. Momo concern Isay, how long do you have to stay here? Isay sighs, well since the time difference between these two dimensions are different, I'm here hopefully until the end of the year, which is most likely the end of the month back home. Kaneko concern, what about Loki and his dogs? Isay serious, Loki is dead, I killed him. Momo Kaneko gasped, you killed him? Isay serious, he left me with no choice. Smiles, but as for the dogs, whistles. It was then three small ash-gray wolves came up to Isay, in which he started petting them. Isay smiles, I made them my familiars. Both Momo and Kaneko were shocked beyond belief. Not only did Isay was able to kill a god, which makes him the first Longinus wielder in history to do so, but he was able to make three legendary beasts that have the power to kill gods and legendary dragons alike as his pets. Isay chuckles, I can see your surprise at this, well I guess it's expected. Momo Kaneko nods, Yuha. Isay smiles, as much as I want to stick and catch up, I need to send you both back home before Sona and Rias get worried or think you went stray. Momo sad, and do we have to? I mean I finally get to see you again after so long. Isay smiles sadly, I'm Momo, but this needs to happen, but don't worry to you, I'll only be gone for a few more weeks. Kaneko curious, how are you gonna get us home? Isay smiles, now that you mentioned it. Serious, oi, are those two ready yet? Momo Kaneko surprised, huh? Isay smiles, just about ready dad. That was when a portal opened up next to them and out came a fairly young handsome man with red spiky hair and golden eyes. He had a nice lean build built for speed and power, and his attire consisted of being part of a biker gang, as well as having the red dragon tattoo on his shoulder like Isay. This person was no other than Great Red in his human form, since while Momo and Kaneko were recovering, Isay called his dad and told what happened and that Momo and Kaneko needed a lift back home to their world. He agreed of course, but he told his son that no doubt he was gonna get into some shit with the Norse gods since he killed one of their own, in which Isay sighed and said that he knows and he'll figure something out, but he didn't regret what he did. Momo confused eyes, who is this person? Isay smiles, this is my dad and he's here to take you home. Kaneko hopeful, will we see you again? Isay smiles, soon Kaneko, but before you go I have two things I want to give you. Kaneko curious. It was then Isay gave Kaneko 2 big bags of cookies and a piece of paper with his symbol on it. Isay smiles, I know it may not be the store brand sweets that you are used to, but I think my homemade cookies should satisfy you for a little while. Kaneko mind, stars in her eyes, sweets made by Isay senpai. Kaneko blushes nervously, thank you, Isay senpai. Isay smiles, you're quite welcome, and that piece of paper is for Rias, since she took care of Asia for me, she can ask me for one favor. Kaneko nods, I'll make sure to get it to her. Isay serious, but there is one thing I need you both to do when you return back to our world. Momo Kaneko curious, what is it? Isay serious, don't tell anyone about this world, trust me, the less the people from our world know about it, as we saw with Loki. You can tell Sona and Rias about everything but this dimension, understood? Momo Kaneko. Nods right. Great Red. Serious alright you two let's go. Momo. Blushes nervously hold on. Everyone. Confused huh. It was then Momo went up to Isay and gathering all the courage she could muster, she kissed Isay on the lips, which surprised him greatly all the while Great Red and Drag couldn't help but have shit-eating grins, since they couldn't wait to tease Isay about this later. When the kiss was done both of their faces were completely red, but Isay was the one who was most confused. Isay. Completely red while blinking in confusion on Momo. Momo. Blushes nervously while twiddling her fingers well I'm a devil you know, and you're asking me to hide something from my master, and as such I needed compensation that was worthwhile. Isay. Red while stuttering yeah but. Kaneko. Expressionless while gesturing her hand to come lower Isay senpai. Isay. Confused what is it, Kaneko? Once Isay lowered himself to Kaneko's level, Kaneko gave Isay a quick kiss on the cheek, which caused to become even redder than before. Seeing Isay like this made Great Red and Drag laugh their ass off, since they weren't gonna let Isay hear the end of this. Isay. Red and confused Kaneko. Kaneko. Smiling while a bit of red I'm a devil too, Isay senpai, so I need compensation too. Great Red. Laughs his ass off my goodness Isay, I swear in my name that you always tend to be interesting and entertaining when you're around that's my son for you, not only being a complete badass, but also getting girls without even trying. Isay. Red from embarrassment dad shut up. Great Red. Chuckles oh I can't wait to tell your mother about this Mercs well, I better get these two home, see you around kid. Momo Kaneko. Smiles and waves bye, Isay senpai. Once all three of them were gone, Isay decided to head upstairs with Fenrir, Hadi, and Skoll following behind, since wounds were caused by something that was meant to kill gods and legendary dragons alike, he needed as much time as he could to rest and heal. But as he was laying down on his bed drifting into a deep slumber, there was one thought that came to his mind. Isay mind, sweat drops why do I feel like my life is about to get a lot crazier from here on out. Realizing wait a minute did Momo said I was dead. Chapter 5. The room invite and a girl named Ronalinchin. Kuo Town, Kuo Park one day later. It was the middle of the night in the town of Kuo, and all was peaceful, and at the local park in front of a fountain a portal opened up and out came two girls, both with white hair with one being a year older. These two were no other than Momo A.K.A and Kaneko Taoju, who have just returned from another dimension where Isay was currently staying due to the mission he took on. Thankfully Isay's father told the young girls that so far it has only been a day in their world, so they won't have to worry too much for explaining what happened to them hopefully. Both girls were a bit red since they both kissed Isay as payment to his secret from everyone, even their masters, but they couldn't help feeling that they got their feelings through him. Momo mind, blushes I can't believe I kissed Ice, maybe he'll actually understand my feelings for him. Kaneko mind, blushes I can't believe I kissed Isay senpai. It was weird since I didn't think I would have those types of feelings for him. But at the same time it's just right could Isay senpai be the one? But before the two white-haired girls could continue their fantasies about how their relationship will go, they were sadly interrupted by voices that they knew quite well. Rias Sona. Shocked Kaneko Momo. Kaneko Momo. Startled huh. In front of them were their masters Rias Gremory and Sona Citri, along with the rest of their peerage, with all of them having worried expressions on their faces, since when they saw when both their rook and bishop haven't returned, yet they feared worst, especially Momo who has been completely heartbroken since the supposed death of her good friend crush Isay Haidu. Kaneko Momo. Shocked Kaichu. Rias. Worried Kaneko what happened to you and Momo? Sona. Serious when you two didn't report for your duties we feared the worst might have happened. Momo. Sad and forgive us Kaichu, but the reason why we weren't able to make it back to you was because me and Kaneko were kidnapped. This shocked the two heiresses since they couldn't kill a lot of beings that could kidnap their servants. But this also made them extra worried since they had no idea of what their precious servants have been through. Rias of course ran over to Kaneko and gave her a firm hug because she knew that the young Nekishu had been through and she could only imagine what the person who kidnapped her precious rook could have done to her. Rias. Worried oh Kaneko are you alright? Did this person hurt you? Kaneko. Nods no, thankfully Momo senpai and I were saved before anything could happen to us. Sona. Curious who was it that kidnapped you two? Momo. Sirius the Norse god of trickery, Loki. This shocked both heiresses and their peerages, since not only a god was able to infiltrate their territory without them even knowing. But what mostly got their attention was on why a god like Loki would want to kidnap both their servants. Sona. Curious Momo, why did Loki kidnap you and Kaneko in the first place? Rias. Curious I would also like to know why. It was then both Momo and Kaneko looked at each other to confirm their story, since they knew they had to keep their promise to Isay about not telling anyone about the other dimension. Momo. Serious you see Kaichu, Loki was after the Red Dragon Emperor and he used us as bait to lure him out and force him to serve him to enact Ragnarok. This shocked the young devils, since everyone knew how powerful any generation the Red or White Dragon Emperor could be, no matter how weak they could be. But this leaves the question on why would the Red Dragon Emperor even bother to save Momo and Keno in the first place. Rias. Curious, but why would the Red Dragon Emperor save you two in the first place? Momo. Serious, because we knew who he was, and when Loki found that out, he used us as bait to lure him out. Sona. Serious. Momo. Keno. Who is the Red Dragon Emperor? Keno. Stoic. Isay Senpai. Isay Senpai is the current Red Dragon Emperor and the one who saved me and Momo Senpai. This again shocked the two heiresses and their peerages, since they didn't think the boy who they thought died was actually this current Red Dragon Emperor. Even though Rias knew that Isay had a powerful sacred gear, she just didn't expect that the sacred was a Longinus class sacred gear and a dragon type to boat. She honestly wished that she got here sooner to reincarnate him. Sona. Serious. I see. In that case, do you know where Haidu-kun is? Momo. Serious. I'm sorry Kaichu, but we can't tell you. Keno. Stoic. Isay Senpai asked us to keep his whereabouts a secret since he doesn't want to disturb while he is trying to complete his mission. Sona. Curious, and what does that mission entail? Momo. Sighs. I'm sorry Kaichu, but we also can't entirely tell you that as well, but all we can say is that he is trying to protect all of us and that only when he returns he'll explain everything. Curious. So it was Isay-san who sent me to Rias-san. Among the members of Rias' peerage was a pretty young girl with long blonde hair and green eyes. Her hair flows all the way down to her back, with split bangs over her forehead and a single strand sticking out from the top and sloping backward. She wore the Kuo Academy girl's uniform, albeit with a black sweater vest over her dress shirt in place of the cape and corset, which has become her current main attire. This girl was of course Asia Argento, and the newly added bishop of Rias Gremory, after fallen angel known as Raynare, turned Asia over to Rias due to the fear what the Red Dragon Emperor would do to her if he found out that she went along with Raynare's plan to kill Asia and take her sacred gear. At first Asia was a bit nervous and terrified being around devils, but after slowly getting to know the Orc and Student Council, she slowly started to get along with them. When Asia heard about Rias' forced engagement to Riser Phoenix, she decided to help pack the kindness that Rias has given her and allowed herself to be reincarnated as a devil. But during that month she also wondered who and why the Red Dragon Emperor would go as far as to try to save her from the fallen angels. But at the same time she wanted to thank the person who unknowingly gave her a chance at a somewhat normal and helping make such lifelong friends. Rias. Serious. It would seem so, Asia. Sona. Serious. Okay, now for the other question, what happened to Loki? Now doubt the Norse pantheon will definitely notice a god like Loki missing, and if they find out that he was in our territory before disappearing, then it will no doubt spell trouble for us. It was then both Momo and Keno had saddened and downcasted expressions on their faces since they knew what happened to Loki. No doubt once news hits that Isay was the one who killed Loki, he will essentially have a target on his back and almost every god including the Norse pantheon will be trying to kill him. Sona and Rias saw the expressions on their servants' faces when they asked what happened to the Norse god of trickery, but they needed to know what happened so that they could report to their siblings on the matter. Rias. Serious. Keno. What happened to Loki? Keno. Sad and Isay Senpai had no choice. Rias. Confused. No choice. Sona. Confused. No choice to do what? Momo. Sad and Loki was relentless in making his plans to initiate Ragnarok, and we sadly got in the crossfire of his and Isay's battle. Keno. Sad and when Isay Senpai saw that we were injured he got mad. Momo. Sad and he killed Loki. Upon hearing both heiresses and their peerages couldn't believe what they just heard, a Longinus user actually killed a god. Not to mention it was one of the two heavenly dragons who killed Loki, which will no doubt gain some extra attention throughout the supernatural world. But what shocked the group most of all was that it was Isay of all people who they knew was a kind and a gentle person, despite what people said about him, so to think he would kill a god not alone getting angry was definitely unimaginable. It was then Keno gave Rias the ticket that Isay gave her. Rias. Confused. What's this, Keno? Keno. Stoic. That's from Isay Senpai, since you took care of Asia Senpai that ticket will allow you one free favor from him. This shocked the red-headed heiress to think she gained a favor from the Red Dragon Emperor of all people. Now that she knows she can practically ask almost anything of him, she could use that favor to have him help get out of her arranged marriage with Riser. For once in her life Rias felt hope that she could finally obtain the freedom that she always dreamed of having. But little did the group of devils know that currently the entire supernatural world was in uproar since Loki's last message about his death by the hands of the Red Dragon Emperor has already spread. No doubt a meeting discussing what to do with the rogue Red Dragon Emperor will be held soon. Scene change. Freezing verse. Hangar 14, 4:32 p.m. 1 week later. It had been almost 1 week since Isay's fight with Loki, and since then he's been sleeping since then, trying to recover from the injuries that Fenrir, Hadi, and Skoll gave him. Everyone in school was wondering why the Dragon of West Genetics was acting strange on that day and why he didn't attend classes for that almost an entire week. Both Arthur and Hiragi were a bit worried for Isay, since he did act like something was wrong before riding off like a madman, but the one who was worried was Satellizer, since the news of Isay's strange behavior, she for some reason was concerned as to why the mysterious black-haired boy would act like that out of nowhere. When she noticed he wasn't attending his classes, which that just made her even more worried, almost to the point that her heart began to tighten out of fear of what might happen to him. Currently it is the end of the school day, and we see both Yumi and Elies hastily walking towards Isay's garage, since he wasn't in his room at the dorm. Yumi is genuinely worried for Isay since she also heard about Isay's strange behavior last week, and when she saw he didn't attend class for the past week, it just made her extra worried. Elies on the other hand, though equally worried about Isay, couldn't help but snicker about how Yumi is acting about the situation. Yumi. Annoyed, I swear if that boy decided to skip school just because he can, I swear, a scolding is the least of his worries. Elies. Giggles, my look at you acting like his wife already being on his ass and everything. Smirks, besides him missing a few days of school is not gonna kill him, I mean he has perfect grades for being missing for 5 years. Yumi. Blushes in embarrassment, shut up, Elies slightly annoyed, honestly, ever since Isay came back you've been messing with me non-stop about him being my husband, I mean he's only 16 years old. Also I don't want him to develop a habit of skipping school just because he has perfect grades, he needs discipline because he's just not a student anymore, he's also a soldier. Elies. Giggles, well to be honest I can't help it since not only the reaction is so priceless and the fact you honestly can't deny you still have feelings for him. Besides he's going to be 17 pretty soon and it won't be long afterward till he's 18 and you two can officially get hitched. Yumi. Blushes, Elies. Slyly smirks, besides you could already tell that a lot of girls are practically begging him to be their limiter. I even heard some gossip going around amongst the girls and that Isay asked Satellizer Bridget to her limiter. This caused Yumi's eyes to widen in shock, since why would Isay want to team up with a girl like Satellizer Bridget of all people, since surely he heard of the type of reputation that she has going for her. This made Yumi extremely worried about Isay, she didn't care if he was the Red Nova Slayer, the fact that he was willing to team up with Satellizer is a whole different story. For some reason this made Yumi steam with a bit of jealousy, towards which it was noticed by Elies, who couldn't help but snicker at how her best was acting right now. Elies mind, snickers, oh my goodness she is so jealous right now. Elies. Slyly smirks, so if I were you Yumi I would hurry up and tell Ice how you really feel before Satellizer hogs him all to herself. Yumi. Flustered, whoever Isay ends up with is not my concern, but him teaming with Satellizer is still concerning given her reputation. Elies. Slyly smirks, oh so if you don't care who he ends up with then you wouldn't mind if I snatched him up, do you? Yumi. Completely red, what Elies, he's only 16. Elies. Smirks while shrugging her shoulders, what, even I have to admit that he's pretty handsome and no doubt would fit the criteria for being the perfect husband for me. Plus I don't mind waiting another year before we get into the more intimate parts. Yumi. Completely red, Elies, do you have any idea of what you're saying right now? You're talking about sleeping with a student, you could easily go to jail and lose your medical license. Elies. Sweat drops while smirking, relax, I said I would wait until he was 18 Yumi, and besides, we're not getting any younger here, so it wouldn't hurt that we try to find one decent guy in our lives. It just so happened that Isay here fits that criteria for me. Yumi couldn't believe what her best friend and comrade was saying right now, the fact she was willing to sleep with Isay despite being older than him. Even then she knew that they weren't getting any younger and that it wouldn't help being in a relationship or get married to someone before they get too old to bear any children, but at the same time she had to think about her duties as a Pandora. Plus even if she wanted to she wouldn't want her future child to be born in the middle of war, which will no doubt continue even after she's gone. But she decided to ignore all that for the time being and got back on track on why her and Elies were here in the first place. When Yumi and Elies entered the hangar that Isay had control, they noticed that it was completely dark. Elies. Serious, damn this place is dark, do you think he could be sleeping? Yumi. Serious, if he is then he will be getting one hell of a wake call, let's hurry up and find the lights. It was then both Yumi and Elies took out their phones and turned on the flashlight function in order to see where the light switch was located. Yumi. Serious, I think I found it. Click. Once Yumi flipped the switch the lights in the hangar began to illuminate the building. They're both veteran Pandora saw what was inside the garage, not including the vehicles that Isay acquired over the years through street racing. They saw how Isay made this garage into a second home, so to speak, and couldn't but wonder how the hell was Isay able to afford all of this. But what they didn't know was that with them turning the lights on it began to startle the sleeping dragon and his new companions. Elies. Whistles, I have to admit Isay sure has a nice taste when it comes to cars as well as design. Curious, how do you think he was able to afford all of this? Yumi. Sighs in disappointment. Believe or not, from what I've heard from some of the students, was that Isay made a lot of money in the last 2 years or so by competing in street races. Elies smirks. It seems that our pouty prince has become quite the delinquent these 5 years, hasn't he? Yumi sighs in disappointment. Honestly, I know losing Kazuha must have been hard on him, but to actually involve himself in illegal activity is honestly a bit too much. It was then Yumi looked up to the upstairs part of the garage and saw what it seemed like a room and figured that's where Isay was currently sleeping in. As such, she decided to go upstairs with Elies following suit, and when they were in front of the door she decided to gently knock on the door. Knock knock. Yumi serious. Isay, are you in there? Isay grumbles in annoyance. Yeah. Yumi serious. Then hurry up and get your sorry ass out here because you have some explaining to do. Isay grumbles in annoyance. Can't it wait until tomorrow? Yumi annoyed. No, it cannot, because you've essentially been missing for almost a week and it's already the end of the school day. Isay groans in annoyance. Fin. It was then both Yumi and Elies could hear Isay was slowly getting up from him, though reluctantly, since they hear Isay somewhat dragging his body to the door. But confused Yumi and Elies heard what seemed to be animal noises inside Isay's room, almost like a dog, so to speak. Yumi Elies mind, confused. Did Isay get a dog or something? It was then after a few seconds the door to Isay's room finally opened. Came Isay. He was currently in his boxers since usually sleeps in the nude. He had to drag himself to his drawer to grab a pair of boxers to at least look decent in front of Yumi and Elies. Of course, as always, both of them couldn't help blush at Isay's muscular physique, but soon that blush quickly turned into expression of that of concern when Yumi and Elies saw that Isay was covered in bandages all around his body, arms, legs, and torso. Yumi concern. Isay, what the hell happened to you? Isay raises an eyebrow. It's the reason why I haven't come to class this week. Elies concern. Why the hell didn't you come see me? For fuck's sake. Isay, I already tell from first glance something like this would kill even a top tier Pandora. Isay smiles sheepishly while scratching the back of his head. I forgot. Yumi Elies annoyed. You forgot? Isay sweat drops. Easy, okay, look, a lot was going on when this happened, and trust me, I've been through worse than this and healed just fine. Yumi serious. What happened to you? Isay did it happen to be why you were riding on your bike like a goddamn maniac and releasing all that power? Isay shocked. Wait, you too felt that? Elies serious. Felt it? Isay, the entire academy was on the verge of collapse when you released your power. There were some news reports of people collapsing all around the city and even some parts of the world. This shocked Isay since he didn't think he released that much power when he fought Loki, but then again the black-haired began to realize he was pretty pissed off when he saw that Momo and Keno were injured. So it wouldn't be too far that he actually went overboard a bit, since he was a dragon, and dragons are extremely emotional, especially to negative emotions like anger, which is why dragons are so feared and respected that they are sometimes even stronger than most gods. It was then Isay made a mental note, and it would probably be best to seal at least 70% of his power until the time was right to not only reveal himself but also take on the transcendent will. Since everyone, mainly Pandora and Nova, are at least ultimate class or Satan class at best, he could take them on with no problem. Isay mind serious. I guess even though the humans in this world are physically weak or have no trace of magic in them, they're fairly sensitive to when things. Isay sighs. I see. Yumi serious. What happened to you last week? Elies concern. And how the hell did you get yourself injured like this? Isay sighs. Serious. Last week I received a message from someone trying to force me into working with him. He knew who I was as well as threatened those close to me, so I reacted. Yumi curious. Who was he? Isay serious. Some crazy mad scientist terrorist who was trying to destroy the world and rebuild it from the ashes. The problem was I was considered an obstacle for him, but he thought it would be more beneficial to him if he got me on his side, which would have made his plans a lot more achievable. Elies serious. But that doesn't explain how you were able to get all these injuries. Since a Pandora of your level should be able to handle someone like him easily. Isay smirks. You're right, it would be easy for me to take him down, but the bastard came prepared. Serious. The sick fuck genetically altered some wolves designed to kill Nova and someone like me, and the worst part was that the sick fuck saw his experiment was a success. He force breed him on another wolf to help give birth to 2 wolves with the same capabilities as the first one. Anyway, the wolves did a real number on me, hence why I have all these injuries and bandages. Yumi curious. What happened to the wolves? Isay smirks. Well, they're right here. Whistles. As soon as Isay whistled for Fenrir, Hottie, and Skoll to come out to introduce themselves, what came out shocked Yumi, Elies, and even Isay, and that was because they all changed, not just in appearance, but also with their aura. But even though they looked different thanks to the servant contract that Isay made with them, he could tell which wolf was who. Skoll fur became completely jet black like his hair and had blood red eyes with red markings around his eyes, like if he was wearing some sort of eye makeup. Hadi was like the complete opposite, with his fur being white as snow and his eyes were icy blue with the same color markings around his eyes. But the one who Isay felt changed the most was Fenrir, since it was like he was the combination of the two wolves, with his fur being a mixture of jet black and snow white. His eyes were also blood red like skulls, but the difference was that Fenrir had red runic markings in not just his eyes, but also all around his whole body. Isay honestly couldn't believe what happened to the 3 god-slaying wolves that he took in, and what the hell happened to them while he was asleep for that week. Since not only did they, from what Isay could tell from their aura, evolved from divine to true celestial beasts, and on top having a complete badass makeover. Not wanting to draw attention from both Yumi and Elies, Isay quickly woke up Drag and asked him what the hell happened to the wolves. Isay mind, panics Drag, wake up, I need your help. Drag yawns, grumbles in annoyance, what? Isay mind, panics, dude, what the fuck happened? Fenrir, Hadi, and Skull. Drag yawn, groggy, the who eyes widen in shock, holy shit, what happened to them? Isay panics, that's what I want to know, and I can't do anything since Yumi and Elies are here. Drag thinking, I think I know what happened. Isay mind, curious, what? Drag serious, well, since a majority of my previous hosts were mages, they made countless familiar pacts. Isay mind, confused, well yeah, that's how you were taught to make a pact with them in the first place, but what does that have to do with their change in appearance and power boost? Drag thinking, well, if I remember correctly, one of those hosts had a strong theory about making certain pacts with familiars, but sadly, he wasn't able to live long enough to test that theory. Isay mind, curious, what was the theory? Drag serious, well, the theory was that depending on who the master was, as well his her strength can cause strange effects to the creature that it is making a pact with. You can say it also would make the creature perform a forced evolution per se, so that it was stronger than it ever would. The theory could work in reverse, in which it also depends on the creature that the master is making a pact with. I'm guessing since not only are you my host, but since your body was made from both Ophis and Great Red, you could say it helped prove the theory right, and you caused the children of Loki to evolve. Smirks, from what I can tell you gave them a huge power boost, with Fenrir being probably on par with Thor and his children being on par with a super devil. That's only their base stats. That host also included in his theory that the creature could obtain new abilities that it thought it would never obtain. Isay couldn't believe what his brother was telling him, just from making a pact with them, he made the legendary wolves said to be the beginning and the end of Ragnarok already more powerful than they really were. Isay mind, shocked, so what you're saying is it's like Pokemon? Drag thinking, never really thought of it that way. Smirks, well, shit, I guess that host of mine must have been laying down the foundation of what was about to be Pokemon. Well, I'll be damned, I guess you're right. It was then Isay told Drag he could go back to sleep since he got his answer, and turned around back to Yumi and Elies, who were luckily still in awe of the beauty that Fenrir and his sons took in this last week. Yumi in awe, Isay, these wolves. Elies in awe are beautiful. Isay smirks, meet Fenrir, Hadi, and Skull. Elies shocked, like the great wolves from Norse mythology. Isay nods, yup. Yumi surprised, Elies, you know those names? Elies nods, yes, you see, Hadi and Skull in Norse mythology are giant wolves who are destined to forever chase the sun and moon, with Hadi chasing the moon and Skull the sun. But legends say that once the sun and moon were devoured by Hadi and Skull, it was a sign that Ragnarok, the end of the world, would begin. Then there is Fenrir, who is the son of the Norse god Loki, and said to be the strongest out of Loki's children, is a giant wolf who said that his fangs and claws are powerful enough to devour gods, and that he was destined to kill the chief of the Norse gods, Odin, during Ragnarok. Isay couldn't help but be impressed with Elias's knowledge of who Fenrir, Hadi, and Skull were, since she was essentially dead on the money. He could only know what her reaction would be if she found out that these 3 were the actual wolves of legend. But what the 3 didn't notice was that Fenrir had an expression similar to that of having a shit-eating grin, since he couldn't help but have so much pride in being praised by his legend. The legendary wolf especially liked it when Elias said that he was considered the strongest out of his father's children, which he greatly appreciated, since everyone always thought that his brother Jormungandr was the strongest due to his size and the fact he was a dragon destined to kill Thor during Ragnarok. But now, thanks to his new master, he was just as strong as the muscle-headed and hammer-wielding idiot, and felt he could even be stronger. Isay whistles while smirking, damn Elias, you sure know your mythology. Elias slightly blushes while waving it off, oh, it's nothing, it was just stuff that grandmother used to tell me when I was a little girl back in Germany. Yumi curious, oh, then you decided to take in 3 modified wolves who are named 3 legendary beasts after they nearly put you at death's door. Isay shrugs, well yeah, especially since I found out that they were just being used by their creator to fulfill his own selfish ambitions, so I decided to give them a better life, in which they greatly accepted. Plus they are not only badass, strong enough to do this to me, but most importantly gestures to the wolves, they are fucking adorable. Yumi Elies sweat drops while deadpanning, really? Isay Smiles of course, besides I've wondered what it was like to have a pet. It was then Isay gestured to the three wolves to come to him, in which they complied, and that they gently surrounded him as Isay gently patted each of them, which all three wolves couldn't help but hum in satisfaction, since they never received this when they were serving Loki. Isay smiles softly, but in reality I saw myself in each of them, the desire to be part of a family. It was then both Yumi and Elies saw the look in Isay's eyes, the look of longing of being part of a family and to not be alone anymore. Yumi and Elies then began to understand that beneath all that bravado and delinquent persona, Isay was probably broken deep down inside, but they just didn't know how completely broken Isay truly was. But there was one thing that confused both Yumi and Elies. Elies confused Isay, what happened to the mad scientist? Upon hearing that question, Isay grew a grim expression on his face, which scared both the women of what his answer would be. Isay grim, I had no choice, he left me with no choice. Yumi scared Isay, what choice? Isay grim, you wanna know why I released all that power? It was because I was angry, I was furious because the bastard kidnapped two people that I cared about, and when they got injured in the crossfire I snapped. I tried to reason with the fucker, but his arrogant ass thought himself superior and wouldn't listen to me, and in my rage I killed him. Upon hearing what Isay just told them, both Yumi and Elies were horrified to think the sweet boy they knew was capable of killing someone despite that person being in the wrong. Though from what Isay told them, he didn't have a choice in the matter, but it still did concern them about how Isay actually killed someone that wasn't a Nova. Elies concern Isay, are you okay? Yumi concern, why did anyone tell me or anyone about this? We could have helped you and your friends as well as help you prevent killing that person, despite what he has done. Isay sighs, you two don't get it, I had no choice, and trust me when I say this, and that you two wouldn't be any help against a person I was going up against. If I brought anyone with me, then they would just get in the crossfire, and the outcome could have been a lot worse for everyone. Yumi Elies concern him. Isay serious, look, I don't regret what I did, and I know I'll have to face the consequences of what I did eventually, but we forget that we are in a war, and in war there are always casualties. Yumi concern, we understand that we're in a war, Isay, but you killing someone is. Isay serious, if I didn't stop him he would have destroyed the world. Yumi Elies confused, huh? Elies confused, what do you mean? Isay serious, this person had a device that could destroy the world, and if I didn't stop him, then none of us would be here right now. Before you ask, I destroyed the device and any schematics that went along with it, since I thought it would be best that no one knew anything about that device and used it against us. Now Isay wasn't technically lying per se, since it was true. If he wasn't here when Loki came, then his plans for Ragnarok would have been as simple as making a pot of tea, since no one would have been able to stop him, especially with Fenrir and his sons by his side. Though due to his dragon pride he did hate lying to both Yumi and Elies, since he knew them when he was technically 11 years old and tried their best to make his transfer to West Genetics as smooth as possible. But he had no choice but to lie in order to keep secret of the supernatural, as well as him being from a different universe for as long as possible. Seeing that Isay was not giving up on his argument, both Yumi and Elies decided to drop the subject, and since it was self-defense, both of them didn't see the need to report to Sister Margaret, but they made Isay promise that next time something like this happened to tell them immediately, in which for sake of completely dropping the topic he agreed. It was then Yumi then noticed the piano next to them, as well as some guitars and a drum set, which made her curious because she didn't think Isay would be interested in such things. Yumi curious, so what's with the music equipment? Elies smirks, are you trying to impress a girl that you're a musician? Isay deadpanned, ha ha ha, very funny. But in reality I am a musician as well as a singer. Yumi Elies shocked, you can sing? Isay smiles, yup, I used to sing to Kazuha whenever she came back home from a rough day at the academy to help lift her spirits. Yumi and Elies couldn't believe what they were hearing. Isay was already a talented boy, as well as being an excellent cook that would put most 5-star restaurants to shame. But to think that this entire time Isay was talented with music completely blew their minds away. Yumi blushes nervously, do you think you can play a song for us? Elies blushes while being curious, yeah, I mean we never knew you could, so we thought it nice to know what it's like. Isay thinking him smiles, why not, besides it's been a while, and it's always good to sing at least every once in a while. It was then Isay walked over to the piano, and as he was stretching and cracking his fingers, he decided on the song he was going to play, and strangely enough it was a song he wrote after his date with Yuma. The now black hair boy didn't know why, but he felt compelled to play this song. It was as though he wanted to release a part of his pain of what happened to him in his previous life. With his mind made up, he started to play on the piano, to which Yumi thought Isay did beautifully since she was also a piano player, but both her and Elies's hearts tightened when Isay began to play. A broken heart is all that's left. I'm still fixing all the cracks. Lost a couple of pieces when I carried it home. I'm afraid of all I am. My mind feels like a foreign land. Silence ringing inside my head. Please carry me home. I've spent all of the love I saved. We were always a losing game. Small town boy in a big arcade. I got addicted to a losing game. Oh. All I know. Loving you is a losing game. Do you love me not? Giving pieces from my heart. Tomorrow's coming and has gone. Still I carried on. Oh. All I know. Loving you is a losing game. Oh. All I know. Loving you is a losing game. I don't need your games. Game over. Let me off this roller coaster. Oh. All I know. Loving you is a losing game. Oh. All I know. Loving you is a losing game. When the song was finished, both Yumi and Elies had tears in their eyes, since not only was the song extremely beautiful but also extremely sad. It was as if Isay put his true heart and soul into that song, and it just resonated so beautifully. But couldn't help but wonder what happened to Isay to make him feel that he has a broken heart. Upon seeing the females crying, Fenrir quickly went back into Isay's room to grab a box of tissues for the two women. Yumi. Sniffling Isay, that was beautiful. Elies. Sniffling, your voice was divine. Sniffles more, damn it, someone give me some tissues. Fenrir returned with a box of tissues in his mouth and placed it in front of the crying woman, who couldn't help but be overwhelmed by his master's divine but also heartbreaking voice. Both Yumi and Elies then quickly took the tissues and started blowing their noses and thanked the majestic wolf. Elies. Smiles weakly, thank you. Yumi. Smiles weakly, good boy. Fenrir. Nods, woof. Isay. Smiles weakly, sorry that I made you both cry. Yumi. Smiles weakly, it's okay, it's not your fault. Elies. Smiles weakly, we were just caught off with your divine voice is all. Isay. Smiles sheepishly, yeah, to be honest, Kazuhani-san had somewhat of a similar reaction when I first sang to her. Yumi. Curious, but Isay, that song, did you write it yourself? Isay. Nods, yup, I like to write my own songs, but I sometimes sing songs of other people for fun. Yumi. Curious, it's just that song, the way you sang felt it was personal, as if you were letting out the pain and suffering you had inside you. Isay. Serious, Yumi. Concerned, Isay, did something happen to you that made you write that song? It was then Isay blankly stared at the ceiling, remembering the fateful night that changed his life forever. Even though he doesn't mind becoming close with someone, but what happened with Yuma, the feelings that he had when they were dating, was something that he could never reciprocate ever again. It was then he placed his right hand over his now frozen heart and closed his eyes while taking a deep breath before speaking. Isay. Sad, and I'm sorry, but that is something I don't think that is something I will never be ready to talk to anyone about ever. Yumi. Elies. Sadden Isay. Yumi mind, sadden and concern Isay, just what happened to you? Meanwhile in Tibet, up along the cold mountains of Tibet resides a village which is surprisingly female dominant. Within the village resides a shrine where an elderly man who seemed to be the elder of this village was speaking to a girl who was around 18 years of age, kneeling down in respect. Village elder. Sirius, go in peace, child. May the goddess Kulin be forever at your side to guide and protect you. Look now, Rana, for he shall guide your destiny, the young man to whom you are fated, now arise. Rana smiles, yes, patriarch. Scene change. West Genetics, first year hallway. Next day. It was the next day in West Genetics, and news of Isay's return had already spread throughout campus, which reached Satellizer's ears, who quickly looked around campus looking for Isay, since she wanted to give Isay her answer. But of course both Hiragi and Arthur were pestering Isay about what happened to him a week ago, and of course Isay left some bits out, but mostly said that he got news of a crazy terrorist was about to start a massive attack and that he was holding very close friends of his hostage, so he acted. He also threw in that he rescued some wolves that were being abused by the terrorist that was holding his friends hostage, to which Hiragi practically pleaded Isay to see them, thinking that they were going to be cute. Isay. Nonchalant, and that's what happened. Arthur. Sweat drop, so you literally went in there like a special ops guy and took the guy out before he could enact his plans and save those girls that you're close to. Chuckles sheepishly, yeah, even though every guy dreams to pull something like that off, I don't think I could do it. Isay. Sighs, well, it wasn't for sure. Hiragi. Concern, how are your injuries, Isay? Isay. Smiles softly, I'm fine, just have some scars, I just needed to rest for a while, thanks for asking. Hiragi. Smiles, well, that's great to hear. Smiles curiously, so what are wolf names? I'm so curious. Isay. Chuckles, well, the father is named Fenrir and the other two are his sons Hadi and Skoll. Hiragi. Smiles happily, so you rescued an entire family, that's so thoughtful of you. Isay. Smiles fondly, well, I felt like they needed a home, so I offered it to them, and so far they have been a great addition to my family. Arthur. Confused, well, that's cool and all, but what does the school have to say about it? Isay. Smirks, don't worry, I explained the situation to Sister Margaret and she accepted that the wolves were my responsibility. Hiragi. Smiles, that's so cool, so what are you gonna do with them? Issei. Thinking, well, I think it would be best for them to stay in the hangar since I don't want to completely frighten the other students at the dorms with their presence. Which will mean I'll most likely be staying in the hangar more often than not. Smirk, since they're going to be living with me, I'll have to get them some things, and since tomorrow we have a day off, I can go into town and pick up some things to help keep them occupied, as well as get them some food. Arthur. Smirks, that's true, but are sure you can afford to take care of them because you do know they're not dogs, right? Curious, I mean, I may not be an animal expert and all, but I'm pretty sure even a standard wolf would need triple as many calories than a normal dog, and you have 3 of them. I mean, I know you're pretty loaded and all, but do you really think you can afford to take care of them all while taking care of your own needs? Issei. Smirks, of course, and by chance I do run out of money, I just dip into my savings. Arthur. Hiragi. Confused. Savings. Issei. Smirks, well yeah, the number I told you guys about last week was only essentially my checking account. Arthur. Hiragi. Blinks in confusion. Hiragi. Shocked, holy crap, Issei, just how much money do you have? It was then Isay quickly looked around so that a certain blonde girl who he was trying to partner up with didn't hear what he was about to say. Isay. Serious, well, don't say anything to anyone, but I actually have enough money that would make the Elbridget's family's fortune looks like pocket change. Both Aurora and Hiragi couldn't believe what they just heard from Isay's mouth, to think he was richer than one of the most powerful families in the world and that has extremely strong ties to Chevalier. At first they thought the money while street racing was impressive since they heard that winners of those street races get paid a hefty amount of money, but to think Isay had more money as a backup was honestly ridiculous. Hiragi. Shocked, how the hell were you able to accumulate that much money? Isay. Smirks, well, I did a lot of things while I was away from the Aoi family for the past 5 years. I trained, got involved in street races, and partied at clubs. But when I wasn't any of those things, I casually went exploring around the world. Arthur. Hiragi. Confused. Exploring. Isay. Nods, yup, I would explore ancient ruins and caverns in which I found a whole lot of treasure, some that were as old as the times of ancient Babylonia. Hiragi. Amazed, wow, so you went exploring. Isay. Grins, yup, just like Indiana Jones. Isay wasn't about exploring the world and finding treasure troves and ancient ruins, but that's only half of the truth. In reality, Isay was curious about the remains of the supernatural world and as such decided to travel to the versions of heaven, hell, and other divine and hellish realms that resided in this universe and see what the gods of this universe left behind. As Isay visited each of these realms, he saw that each of them were in shambles and ruin, which was most likely from each pantheon experiencing their own apocalypse, thus ending the age of gods. During his travels, Isay found some pretty interesting weapons and trinkets that would put even the modern weaponry that they have today to shame. Since he was a dragon, he had the urge to hoard it all for himself, but it was also he found certain weapons in these ruins that he felt were too dangerous for the humans of this world to just leave around, and he kept them all in a special vault in his room in the dimensional gap. Arthur. Smiles, well, Isay, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'll say it, you're a man among men, my friend. Honestly, with all the things and adventures you went on, I don't think anyone with a brain can deny it. Isay. Smiles, thanks Arthur, and I know it wasn't easy to say that. Isay mind, serious, but trust me when I say that what I'm doing here is just the beginning of my adventure, since once I return back to my world that's when my real adventure begins. Hiragi. Curious, oh, changing the subject, have you talked to Satellizer yet? Isay. Serious, no, I haven't seen her since the fight with Ingrid. Hiragi. Shocked, what? Isay. Curious, Hiragi. Surprised you put yourself on the line by defeating Bernstein Senpai and you haven't gotten even a lousy thank you. Isay. Smirks, it's fine, and besides Bernstein Senpai was after me too, so it's fine, and besides, I didn't save her for her gratitude, I also did it since Bernstein Senpai needed to learn the truth about Marin anyway, so we all had a reason to put an end to that fight. Arthur. Smiles while putting his hand on Isay's shoulder, see what we have been trying to tell you. That Satellizer is nothing but trouble, my friend, she's hot, I'm not gonna lie to you. Hey, I totally understand how you can get sucked into a beauty like her. Isay mind, sweat drops, yeah, don't get me wrong, Satellizer is beautiful and all, but that's not what I'm after. Dreg. Grins cap. Isay mind, eye twitching in annoyance, I fucking hate you sometimes, Dreg. As both Keiho and Arthur were trying to convince Isay on why he shouldn't try teaming up with Satellizer, they noticed that the girl in question was walking towards them. Isay of course noticed the blonde girl walking towards them and couldn't but take her eyes off her, he didn't know why, but every time he saw her Isay felt a strange attraction towards that he couldn't entirely explain. Greg, who was watching how host little brother was reacting to how he saw the Elbridget, couldn't help smile fondly since every time they met, he felt that frozen wasteland which was his heart was slowly melting, which confirmed his theory about the girl and how she the key to opening Isay's heart. When Arthur and Keho finally noticed how Isay was staring off into the distance, they both turned around and saw that Satellizer was behind them and started to panic. Arthur panics. Oh, what a surprise. Good afternoon, ma'am. We were just talking about your beauty and now you're here. Keho panics. Yeah, we certainly were. All the boys in our class are just smitten with you. It's embarrassing how they carry on. As both Arthur and Keho were trying to make excuses for her, Satellizer opened her eyes and looked at Isay, and as if a spell was casted on her, she couldn't help but feel drawn to him. The look in his eyes that was such infinite loneliness, but still having the want to be loved, trying to reach out, but it is too scared to do so for some reason, made Satellizer's heart tighten with such sadness. She wanted to know why Isay had that look in his eyes and why he felt like he couldn't have that type of relationship with anyone. But right now she believed she had her answer to Isay, but wanted to be alone to give it to him. Satellizer serious. Hey Isay. Isay curious. Yeah. Satellizer serious. I wish to speak with you in private. Follow me. Isay smiles. Sure. But that Isay followed Satellizer to what seemed like the rooftop of the school, leaving the confused Arthur and Keho on what just happened. Scene change. School roof. Currently on the rooftop of the building where Isay was with Arthur and Keho stood Satellizer in front of the guardrail, with Isay standing a few feet behind her. It had been a good minute or two since Satellizer brought both up here with her not saying a word. Isay mentally guessed that this must be because of the offer he made to Satellizer about being her limiter. Deciding to break the ice once for all, he decided to ask her why she brought him up here in the first place. Isay curious. So are you going to tell me why you brought me up here? It was then, without saying a word, Satellizer turned around and walked over towards Isay. He was curious on what Satellizer was about to do until she was directly in front of him. It was then Satellizer grabbed Isay's hand and placed it on her cheek. Isay couldn't but blush of what was happening right now. Satellizer was moving her head to help stimulate, as if Isay caressing her cheek, which made Isay's face even more red. Her skin was so soft, and looking at her face, there was only one thing that came to Isay's mind. Isay mind blushes. How can anyone be as beautiful as her? Satellizer whisper, blushes slightly. I knew it. Isay startled. Huh? Satellizer blushes slightly. You're alright. I had a feeling you were even when you touched me. It doesn't make me feel bad. That's never happened before. Never. Isay blushes nervously. Well, I'm glad I don't make you feel that way at the very least. Just like you, I don't think I've ever felt this way before. It's honestly hard to explain and put it into words. This of course made the infamous untouchable queen blush even more at Isay's words, but of course, not wanting to look embarrassed, she turned away quickly and walked back towards the guardrail. Satellizer nervous. You can cast freezing areas, right? Like how you did with Ganessa. Even without the Urinber set. Isay serious. Yes, I can. Satellizer blushes nervously. I've decided. Isay curious. Decided what? Satellizer blushes nervously. About your offer about us being partners, and I accept. I hereby agree to make you my limiter. Isay concern. Are you sure? I hope I'm not making you feel I'm pressuring you or anything. Satellizer blushes slightly. No, this decision I made completely on my own. But we can't do the baptism, okay? Isay smiles softly. Just like I told you, I also don't want to perform the baptism, so as long as we agree to be partners, I don't care if it's traditional or not, since as long as we have each other back, then I don't care what others might think. Satellizer was amazed by Isay's words about how as long as they agreed to have each other back, then he didn't mind forming this partnership without the baptism. This made Satellizer inwardly glad that she made her decision to make Isay as her partner, but she was still curious on why he didn't want to perform the baptism in the first place. Satellizer nervous but curious. Hey Isay curious. Yeah. Satellizer nervous. I'm just curious, but why don't you want to perform the baptism exactly? I know you said you weren't ready to be that close to someone again. But if we're gonna be partners, shouldn't I at least know why? Isay smiles sadly. I'm sorry, Satellizer, but I don't think I'll ever be ready to tell anyone that story. Satellizer concerned. But Isay, if we were going to be partners, we should know everything about each other. And I mean, you figured out about what happened to me. So shouldn't I know at least a part of the reason why you don't want to perform the baptism? Isay couldn't deny Satellizer, since if they were going to be partners, then they should be able to trust each other, and even though Isay will have to lie about his purpose for being here as well as who he really was, he should at least tell Satellizer part of the reason why he doesn't want to perform the baptism. It was then Isay looked up to the clear blue with his hair covering his eyes so that the Satellizer could look in his eyes. He then spoke in a voice like he sounded normal, but Satellizer could tell he sounded completely broken, remembering what happened to him. Isay Expressionless you see once upon a time, I loved someone that I would have done anything for sheds a single tear, but in the end she betrayed and used me for her own selfish goals. So that's why Satellizer I don't want to perform the baptism I just don't know if I can let someone else get that close to me ever again. Satellizer couldn't help but cover her mouth in shock of what she just heard. Isay was in love with someone, and that person ended up using and betraying him in the end. Satellizer couldn't even imagine the heartbreak and trauma that Isay is going through. She honestly couldn't imagine being betrayed by someone that she loved. She knew what it was like being used, but there was no love in it from the beginning. So to think Isay put everything for this person, only to find out he was being used for this person's selfish goals was unimaginable. Satellizer believed that she wouldn't be able to continue living if she experienced what Isay went through, so to think he still had the will to keep moving forward and put on a genuine smile was nothing to scoff at. But what happened next made Satellizer's heart sink. When Isay turned to face her, he was smiling, but it was a fake smile. It was like Isay trying to hide away the pain of remembering his betrayal by the person who he thought loved him. Satellizer. Sad and Isay, I'm so sorry that happened to you, I didn't know. I can't imagine what you went through, but I promise I won't use you like that other person did. Isay smiles sadly. Thank you Satellizer. Smiles now then, if I am not mistaken I think it's time for lunch, so, shall we get going? But that said Isay headed towards the door of the rooftop and proceeded to enter the building with Satellizer following closely behind. But as they were making their way towards the cafeteria, Satellizer began to think about what Isay just told her and thought to herself if Isay was willing to try to help her with her troubles, then it was only right that she do the same for Isay. Satellizer mind, concerned. Don't worry Isay, just like you are trying your best to help me I'll do my best to help you. Scene change. Cafeteria. Currently both Isay and Satellizer were in the cafeteria eating burgers from Burger Queen that Satellizer bought for both of them. Isay mentally wondered why Satellizer liked these burgers so much since he read about what went into these burgers and thought if he's going to be Satellizer's partner, then maybe he could recreate the burgers so that they're a lot more healthier for her. All the while Satellizer was hoping to figure out a way to help Isay with his trust issues and hopefully open up more to her. Satellizer mind, thinking how can I help you Ice? Even though you want to be partners with me, you still feel deep down inside you can't trust anyone to be close to you, you're like me in that regard. Curious maybe I can use this partnership as a way to help open his heart once again to others, like what he's most likely trying to do for me. Blushes nervously. Maybe if I invite him into my room then completely red. No I can't do that, he will think it's weird and feel rushed nervous, but if we're going to be partners then we should at least. Satellizer. Blushes nervously. Isay well are you busy tomorrow? Isay. Curious tomorrow? Thinking well let me see I do have to go into town to pick up some things for my wolves, but other than that I'm pretty much free, why do you ask? Satellizer. Shocked wait, you have pet wolves? Isay. Smiles while nodding yup, 3 of them to be exact. I rescued them last week when I left the school. Satellizer. Blushes nervously. I see well would you like to? Isay. Curious I'm listening. Satellizer. Blushes nervously. Never mind him damn it I would be honored if you would come up to my room tomorrow. Isay. Blinks in confusion. Shocked. Isay was shocked by what Satellizer just asked of him since he knew what Satellizer inviting him to her room meant. Even though they both agreed that they wouldn't perform the baptism to think Satellizer would be willing enough to do the room entry. Isay thought she might be forcing herself to do this for some reason. Isay. Confused. You want me to come to your room? Satellizer. Serious while blushing. Exactly, you'll do it right. Isay. Concerned. Satellizer, are you forcing yourself? Because we don't have to do this if you really don't want to, you know. Satellizer. Serious while blushing. Well yes because we're partners and even though we agreed not to do the baptism, we could at least do a proper room entry. Isay. Concerned. Satellizer. I just. Greg. Annoyed. Isay. Isay mind, shocked. What the hell, Greg. Annoyed. Even though you are no doubt my strongest host ever, I refuse to have my host to remain a virgin for all eternity. Isay mind, shocked and annoyed. For fuck's sake, first you're happy and proud of me of being your strongest ever. Now you're annoyed by me just because I haven't had sex yet. What the fuck man, make up your mind. Greg. Serious. Listen hatchling, there's no telling if the White One's host already lost virginity yet and we must remember he is a Lucifer and as such, he will most likely have a mate or two, given his demonic heritage. Annoyed. The last thing I need is for that giant turkey to rub it in my face while you're beating the crap out of Volley that my host is a dragon god of virgins. Isay mind, sweat drops. You seriously need help, you know that Drag. Satellizer. Curious. Isay. Isay. Sighs. Smiles softly. Very well Satellizer, I'll come to your room tomorrow. Satellizer. Surprised really. Isay. Smiles. Yes, I'll just have to take care of my errands and I'll swing by, okay. Satellizer blushes. Right in that case I'll see you tomorrow then. Isay. Smiles. I'll see you then. Scene change. West Genetics, Shintashi. Next day. It was currently a day off for the students at West Genetics, and as such Isay decided to visit the town in order to purchase some things for Fenrir, Hadi and Skoll. Isay was currently wearing his casual clothes which consisted of black tank top and a red jacket with a black dragon symbol on the back of it. He wore black jeans and checkered Vans shoes. Isay thought of bringing them with him, but he realized that he would no doubt cause a massive panic if 3 wolves were walking around the city streets would cause too much of a panic and decided to leave them in the hangar for the time being. He remembered the reactions of both Arthur and Keho when he told them about how he was invited to Satellizer's room, which shocked both of them. Both Isay and Hiragi sweat drop about how Arthur's room visit with Ganessa went, to which even Drake thought it was disappointing. While in town he was able to buy 3 very large dog beds for them to sleep on and ordered 2 large freezers for their meat and have it sent to his hangar. The tricky part was buying the food for the 3 legendary beasts. He ended up going to 3 different supermarkets and ended up with almost the meat and fish that store had to offer, and not wanting to walk around all day with large bags filled with meats, he waited until he was in a secluded area and put the bags into his personal dimensional pocket. Isay also made a mental note to probably order the meats he needs for the dogs online so that he wouldn't leave the store empty without any meat or fish, but then at the same time he could go hunt for their meals since it would be a lot easier and cheaper in all honesty. Isay was currently walking through streets since he thought it would be nice to bring something for Satellizer for when he visited her room later tonight, to which he passed by a doll store and spotted a small red dragon doll. Isay mind, curious, I wonder if Satellizer would like this. I mean, she's a girl and I would think she would be interested in stuff like this, right? Greg smirks. Isay get it, since even if she's not into it, she will at least appreciate the thought of it. Isay mind, smirks. You just want me to get it since it almost looks just like you. Greg grins damn straight. Isay mind, smiles while sweat dropping. Honestly Oni-san, what am I gonna do with you? After deciding on the doll, the shop owner told him that he had a good eye since the doll has become pretty popular, especially with the girls, to which Isay could hear Drake laughing and grinning with pride that he was right about the doll. But of course, as soon as Isay took a few steps out of the store, a bunch of wannabe street thugs came up to him and pushed him towards an alleyway where no one could see them. Of course Isay couldn't help but sweat drop at these amateurs trying to mug him. Random thug grins. So kid, if you wanna go home unhurt, you better pay up. Isay sighs in annoyance. Listen here brat, serious, if you wanna go home with you and your friends not being dragged in body bags, then I suggest you walk away and forget about this whole thing. Of course all this did was piss off the thugs, in which the person who looked like to be the leader tried to punch Isay in the face. Thug leader annoyed. You piece of shit, you think you ain't shit. But of course as soon as the thug leader punched Isay, he felt like he hit industrial steel and Isay barely moved his face. The other thugs couldn't help but be terrified of what just happened. It was then Isay slowly turned his head with his eyes turning into slits and with a look promising pain and most likely death. Isay cold and serious. I warned you what would happen if you just didn't walk away. But of course before Isay could do anything, he heard a girl yelling from the other side of the alleyway. Serious, stop right there. Isay curious. Random street thugs startled. Huh. The girl in question had waist-length blue hair that was tied in a ponytail by orange hair bands with other hair bands going down on each space of the ponytail. She has a tattoo under the outer corner of her left eye. Her eyes match her hair color. She has fairly big breasts, but compared to Satellizer, she is on the normal end of breast sizes. She looked foreign given her attire, which Isay guessed was near Tibet or Nepal. Serious ganging up on one person is unforgivable. Points at the thugs. In the name of the goddess Cool and I, Ronald Lynchen, cannot forgive you. This of course made everyone in the alley including Isay have question marks above their heads, since who the hell was this girl and where did she come from? Isay felt like not getting her involved and decided to tell her to go away. Isay dragged mind, confused. Who the fuck is Coolin? Isay serious. I have this handled, you can go on your way. Rana serious. But I cannot, as a person who worships the goddess Coolin, I must protect the weak. Even though this was trying to be kind and considerate to him, Isay couldn't help being annoyed from being called weak due to his dragon pride. But of course the arrival of Rana helped regain their confidence, since to them, Rana didn't look like too much of a threat to them. Thug leader smugly grins. Another hick from the countryside. This bitch must want to get fucked up too. Hurry up and go home before you get her. But before the thug leader could lay his hands on Rana, she quickly ducked and elbowed him in the face. Isay was a bit surprised by how Rana was able to take down that thug, since her form and posture told him that she must have trained and studied for years. It was then the other 2 thugs tried to rush Rana to avenge their leader. Isay was about to step in and help her until Rana dodged one other thug's attacks and changed her footwork in order to push that thug and his friend into a wall, and just when Isay thought it was over, Rana delivered a powerful kick to the first thug with enough force to render both thugs unconscious. It was then Rana turned towards Isay with a delightful smile on her face. Rana smiles, are you alright? Is there any place that hurts? Isay mind, curious and amazed, who is this girl? Scene change. Shintashi, random restaurant. After the incident, the thugs in the alleyway, both Rana and Isay, properly introduced each other. Rana then explains to Isay that she is from Nakart's Tibet, to which explained about her outfit as well as fighting style a bit. When Isay tried to thank her for trying to save him, Rana explained to Isay that he didn't need his thanks since it was her teachings of Kulin that taught her to stand up and protect the weak, to which confused Isay and dragged greatly on what the hell this Kulin goddess was, so he decided to finally ask on what the hell she was saying. This of course surprised Rana since she thought everyone the ways of Kulin, but decided to explain to Isay who Kulin was and that she was a sacred spirit that protects all living creatures and protects from going down the wrong path. This obviously gave both Isay and Drag a what the fuck did I just listen to expression, but decided to not repeat it out loud so that they wouldn't anger the martial arts girl. Once Rana explained to Isay who was Kulin, she decided to bid Isay farewell, but she didn't realize she was walking into the middle of the street with a truck about to run into her. Isay was about to use an axle turn in order to save her until both he and Drag were shocked again when Rana stopped the truck with just her hand. When Isay asked Rana on how she did that, she replied that she was empowered by Kulin's tears, to which again confused Isay, so instead discreetly a type of scanning magic on her, to which he finds that Rana has 6 stigmatas on her back, making her a Pandora. But of course, as if by clockwork, Rana's stomach started rumbling, indicating she was hungry. Rana of course became embarrassed and tried to convince Isay that she was fine, but Isay, who obviously wasn't buying, and decided to offer Rana a free meal as a show of thanks for saving him. Currently they were in a restaurant, to which Isay got them both spaghetti. Poor Rana, who wasn't familiar with the dish, was struggling on how to eat the pasta and decided to give her a hand on how to eat it. Isay had to admit Rana did look pretty cute and innocent, trying to eat just simple pasta. Isay smiles while trying to feed Rana. Here you go Rana, open wide. Isay mind, smiles, it's weird, something tells me that in another life I was doing the same thing with another girl, though blonde and a bit tinier than Rana. Isay smiles, so how's it taste? Rana amazed and in awe, it's very delicious, it's as if Kulin overseas as the savory flavors spread throughout perfect harmony. Isay mind, sweat drops and again still lost in this. Greg deadpan agreed. Isay smiles, well I'm glad you like it. Rana stares fondly. Isay confused, huh? Rana smiles softly, you hold within you a very kind Kulin. If it's alright with you, would you tell me your name once more? Isay curious, my name is Isay A.K.A. Rana smiles fondly. Isay A.K.A, owner of a very kind Kulin. Isay confused, Rana smiles happily, thank you kind Isay-san. The pasta was very delicious. Isay chuckles, think nothing of it, consider it as my gift to you. Curious, by the way, is Rana-san right? Since you're not from around here, what kind of business do you have at West Genetics? It was then Rana explained to Isay how she came here to find her fated individual in order to help to defeat the evil creatures. Isay was to deduce that what Rana meant was that she was looking for a limiter in order to help combat the Nova. She then explains that in her village there were hardly any men, or to be precise, that there were no men that resonated with her stigmata, to which she explained further that the man that makes her stigmata resonate is her chosen limiter. So in order to help, the elder of her village sent her to West Genetics to have a better chance to find her fated individual. Isay took in all the information that Rana just gave him and understood somewhat she was trying to do, but couldn't help but feel she was a little bit too naive and innocent for someone her age, and felt that no doubt that some of the guys in school will no doubt take advantage of her innocence in order to partner up with her. Since even though Isay can't tell she was pretty strong, she no doubt could be easily manipulated, which was concerning given the type of people that enroll in these schools. It was then Isay's thoughts were interrupted when he heard the sound of a familiar voice. Hi Ragi, smiles, you were here. Isay curious, looking at the entrance of the restaurant was both Hiragi and Arthur, both in casual clothes. Hiragi smiles, found ya, Isay-kun. Isay smiles, Hiragi, Arthur, what are you two doing here? Arthur smiles, well given that it's our day off and you told us you were going to get some things for your wolves, we thought we could help out. Isay smiles, well thanks for the kind gesture, but I have already finished all my shopping for the wolves. Hiragi looks around confused, really? I don't see any bags besides that one you have on your right. Isay smirks, well don't tell anyone this, but I didn't feel like carrying that around all day and used axle turn to quickly head back to the academy to drop off the stuff. Hiragi sweat drops, isn't that like a huge abuse of your abilities? Isay raises an eyebrow, you're acting like I stole the items. Well relax, I paid for them. Sweat drops, though I did leave the store with a lot of crying store owners since I bought all their meat and fish. Arthur shocked, that was you? Isay smiles, well what can I say, I have hungry wolves. Hiragi Sweat drops yeah, but even I don't think wolves can eat that much. Isay. Smiles they're very hungry wolves. Hiiragi. Looks to Rana curiously so who's this person? It was then Isay introduced Hiiragi and Arthur to Rana, to which they happily greeted her back. But when Hiiragi asked Isay who Kulin was, Isay just sweat dropped and told her just got with it, since not even he could explain it properly. But just as the four teenagers were enjoying themselves the three thugs members plus an extra person who looked like he was part of the Yakuza came in demanding payback for what Rana and Isay did. Isay. Sighs in annoyance really? You fucking dumbasses again. Don't you know how to take an L and move on? Leader. Smirks shut up we're gonna make you and that country hick girl pay for what you did earlier. Hiiragi. Concern Isay, just who are these people? Isay. Annoyed if I had to put it into words just some mongrels who don't know when they're beat and have nothing else better to do than to just bother others for attention and false fame. Scene change. Shintashi, construction site. It was then the four thugs decided to drag Isay, Hiiragi, Arthur and Rana to a construction site, to which on the way there Isay explained to both Hiiragi and Arthur about his and Rana's encounter with the thugs. Isay was honestly fucking annoyed with these pricks bothering him since he still needed to feed Fenrir, Hadi and Skull on top, hurrying up getting to Satellizer's room. But in hopes to avoid any bloodshed, Isay wanted to give these dumbasses one last chance to walk away. Isay. Annoyed okay, I'm going to be honest, and that is my patience is already at its limit, but I would rather not get the cops involved since I'm already going to be running late for an appointment. Serious so I'm going to give you fuckers one last chance to simply walk away and forget about all of this. Leader. Laughs mockingly fuck no, I said you and that country hick bitch are gonna pay, and that's what's gonna happen. Isay. Sighs in annoyance idiots Hiiragi can you call the cops and tell them get over here, tell them bring them an ambulance 4 of them, and hold this for me will ya? It was then Isay took off his red jacket, which left him only with his black tank top. Both Hiiragi and Rana couldn't help but blush at how muscular Isay was, but also couldn't help but notice the huge bite marks on his arms which concerned them. But it was then the four thugs became pale when they saw Isay's arm, which held the marking of a red dragon with 4 wings. 1. Scared no way it can't be. 4. Scared but it has to be since no one in the underworld would even dare get that same marking. Leader. Scared shitless it can't be you're the infamous Red Dragon Emperor. This shocked Arthur and Hiigari since they didn't think some common street thugs would know who Isay is, but then again, he did tell them that one of Isay's titles was very popular in the criminal underworld. All the Rana was intrigued by Isay's markings and how these criminals became afraid once they saw it. Isay. Serious so you know who I am, to be honest, I'm a little surprised a couple of street rats has heard of my reputation. 2. Scared dude, there is no way we can take on the Red Dragon Emperor, he's like a major player in the criminal underworld. 4. Scared shitless I agree with the others. Besides, we can't forget how he single-handedly took down 4 gang lords in Tokyo 3 years ago. Hiiragi. Shocked you took down 4 gangs all by yourself 3 years ago. Isay. Serious they tried to force me to join their gang and I wasn't up for that, so I refused. Of course gang leaders don't take it too lightly so they tried to kill me and I fought back. Arthur. Sweats profusely geez man, you're one scary dude remind me to never piss you off. Isay. Smiles noted. 2. Scared come on dude, let's get out of here. Leader. Serious maybe you guys are right. Smirks but this could be a golden opportunity to take down the Red Dragon Emperor and become legends in the underworld. Isay drag mind, sweat drops man these guys are very stupid. It was then the thug leader took out a gun and pointed it right at Isay. Leader. Smirks darkly any last words, Red Dragon Emperor. Isay. Raises an eyebrow yeah think very carefully before pulling that trigger. Leader. Smirks darkly wrong answer. Bang. It was then the gang leader shot Isay in the chest which made his friends and Rana worried since he didn't deploy either his vault weapons or armor. But it wasn't until they looked at Isay again and saw that the bullet casually fell off of Isay like if it didn't even penetrate his skin. Isay. Sighs I warned you. It was then Isay slowly started walking towards the gang leader who was completely terrified of what just happened and started unloading bullets into Isay who just completely ignored them as they kept on bouncing off of his skin. Everyone was wondering what Isay's skin was made out of since not even a Pandora spec'd out with high defense and regeneration can shrug off a bullet like it was nothing. Click click. It was then the thug leader realized he was all out of bullets and when he looked he saw Isay looking down with his crimson slitted eyes glaring down at him. Thug leader. Scared shitless just what the hell are you? Isay. Serious your worst nightmare. It was then Isay grabbed the thug leader's neck and raised him into the air which scared his associates. Isay was honestly going to wait until he lost consciousness to hopefully scare off the rest of them until one of the thug members had a gun to Arthur's head. 4. Scared stop right there. Hiiragi. Concern Arthur. Arthur mind, panics crap. Isay. Eyes narrowed while growling coward. Ugh 4. Smirks weakly now then, if you don't want to see your brain splattered all over the place, you're going to put down my associate and put your hands up looks at Hiragi, and Rana pervertedly you two are gonna strip. Hiragi. Shocked what? Ugh 4. Annoyed hurry and strip if you don't want my finger to slip, then do it. Hiragi. Annoyed TSK. But before Rana and Hiragi could comply with the gunman's demands, everyone felt a large amount of bloodlust overwhelm them, which made them all freeze with fear. It then looked over to the source of the bloodlust and saw that it was Isay who was knocked out, the thug leader, and dropping him on the floor was causing it. It was then spoken in a cold tone that made everyone feel like he was a different person almost. Isay. Cold, unforgivable. Ugh 4. Scared shitless hey I told you to put your hands up, do you want to see your friend die? Isay. Cold I warned all of you so many times to walk away, but you don't listen not taking the consideration that the person might be trying to help you by sparing your life in some way shape or form. But yet you still persist to annoy me just to gain meaningless reputation, but then you dare involve my friends and threaten to hurt and humiliate them which is absolutely unforgivable. Ugh 4. Scared shitless I'm warning you stay back. Isay. Cold freezing. It was then Isay casted a high-density omnidirectional freezing which completely froze everyone in place. But something was different about the colors of the freezing, it wasn't blue or green, but it was a mixture of crimson red and emerald green, and the feeling of the freezing radiated with sensation that Hiragi and Rana could only describe as domination. It was then Rana's stigmata were vibrating. Rana. Shocked Kulin's tears are trembling. Rana mind, shocked and I believe it is due to the power that Isay-san is releasing. It was then Rana as well as everyone else became even more shocked when Isay was glowing crimson red and the glow grew larger and took the shape of a mighty red western dragon with red eyes glaring daggers at the gunman and his assailants. Rana was in absolute awe in the presence of the mighty dragon, for not she could feel the immense power radiating from it, but also the beauty of it was just so captivating. Ugh 2. Scared crap I can't move. Ugh 1. Scared me neither. Ugh 4. Scared what the hell did you do to us, you monster? Without saying a word quickly appeared in front of the gunman punched him right in the face getting him away from Arthur. But he wasn't done since he used an axle turn to quickly knock out the other two thugs out cold. Once he saw the thugs were knocked out, he dispelled the freezing and reeled in back his aura. Isay mind, slightly curious well that was new. Greg. Curious I'll say, to think you were able to pour in my aura into your freezing technique. Isay mind, curious if that's possible then it could be possible to use boost and transfer in the freezing area and give my allies a power boost. Greg. Grins now that would be an interesting experiment to test out, but for now you should check on your friends. Isay mind, serious right, talk to you later Dreg. With Isay disabling the mental link he turned to his friends with a slightly concerned look on his face. Isay. Concern you guys okay? Hiragi. Smiles weakly yeah I'm fine, though I didn't expect you to use a freezing on us as well. Isay. Smiles sadly sorry I guess I was caught up in the moment. Are you okay Arthur? Arthur? Smiles weakly yeah, I'm good thanks for the save. Isay. Smiles good. It was then Isay looked at his phone to which his eyes widened in shock since he was about to be late for his room invite with Satellizer. Isay. Panics while grabbing his jacket and bag crap, I'm going to be late can you guys take care of this with the cops? Arthur. Smirks sure. Isay. Smirks thanks, I owe you guys. Rana. Curious way to say san, before you go can I? Isay. Smiles sadly sorry Rana, maybe next time waves off see ya. Not wasting any time, Isay decided to use axle turn over to the academy to meet up with Satellizer. Hiragi. Curious Rana, what were you going to ask Isay-san? Rana. Smiles fondly because I believe I've found my fated individual. Hiragi Arthur mind, sweat drops oh no. Scene change. West Genetics Academy, second year girls dormitory. 1 hour later, Satellizer, who was wearing a beautiful red dress, was currently sitting in her room with some appetizers and a glass of wine, waiting for Isay to arrive. It had been over an hour since the designated time that Isay and Satellizer agreed to meet. She remembered that said that he was going to do some shopping for his pet wolves, but even she knew that it shouldn't have taken this long. Satellizer. Sad and where is he? Come on, it's already an hour past the time we promised. Knock. Satellizer. Surprised huh? Isay behind the door, smiles sheepishly Satellizer are you there? It was then Satellizer walked over to her door with an annoyed expression on her face since Isay made her wait for over an hour. When she opened the door he saw Isay still wearing his casual clothes with a sheepish smile on his face and bag on his right hand. Isay. Smiles sheepishly hey Satellizer I hope I'm not too late. Satellizer. Slightly annoyed how long were you planning to keep me waiting? Isay. Smiles sheepishly sorry, I ran into a little trouble at the store today. Satellizer. Slightly annoyed well I hope you have a really good explanation. Isay. Chuckles nervously of course, but I think it's best that we discuss inside, looks to his right since. As soon as Isay looked to his right, Satellizer did the same to see a bunch of the rest of the second-year girls peeking out through their doors, since they curious why the dragon of the West as well as now the delinquent prince of West genetics was standing in front of the room of the untouchable queen. This of course made Satellizer cause Satellizer's face to become completely red from embarrassment. To which she grabbed Isay's arm and dragged him into her room and closed the door. When the door was closed, all of the girls quietly went over to Satellizer's door to listen in on what was going on, only for Satellizer to open the door again and give the girls a cold and angry glare, which made them scatter back to their rooms before closing the door. Isay. Smiles. My, aren't we popular? Satellizer. Sighs in annoyance. You better have a really good explanation on why you were late. Isay. Smiles softly. Of course, but before we do that I have something for you. Satellizer. Surprised you do? Isay. Smiles warmly. Yeah, I thought I should get you something to help commemorate your first room visit, but I wasn't sure if you were into it or not. Looks around, but judging from your room I think I made the right choice. Satellizer. Curious, right choice. It was then Isay pulled out the red dragon doll that he bought from the store earlier and handed it to Satellizer. Satellizer couldn't help but blush at how cute a dragon doll looked. She then formed a soft smile since the thought of Isay getting her something like this made her feel very special. Isay. Smiles. So what do you think? Satellizer. Smiles softly. I love it, thank you Isay. Isay. Smiles. Of course, looks at the table. Well, it would be a shame to let this bottle of wine go to waste and the night is still young, so we can still enjoy our room visit. Satellizer. Blushes. Alright, of course. It was then Isay and Satellizer began to drink and talk about their day, to which Isay explained his encounter with the thugs in town, which shocked Satellizer but also made her concerned if Isay was alright. Satellizer. Concern. Oh my goodness Isay, that's terrible. Were you and your friends alright? Isay. Smiles. Yeah, they're fine, and since I was running late I asked them to take care of everything with the cops for me so I could hurry up and get here for our room visit. But of course I had to cook a meal for my wolves and take a shower. Satellizer. Sad, and I see, so that's why you were late. Smiles softly. Well, as long as you were safe then that's all that matters to me. Isay. Blushes slightly. Satellizer. Satellizer. Smiles nervously. Well, it seems that we're out of wine. Isay. Smiles while looking out the window. It does look like it's getting late. Satellizer. Blushes nervously. Well, in that case we should probably head to bed. Isay. Concerned. Satellizer. If you're having second doubts then. Satellizer. Nods. No, I want us to do this. Smiles softly. I want to prove to you that you can trust me and that no matter what you think, we are partners. Isay. Blushes. Satellizer. Despite what the Satellizer said to him, Isay could still see the hesitation in her eyes, but at the same time, Isay didn't want to disrespect her resolve to do this for her and came up with a compromise. Isay. Smiles softly. Satellizer. How about we just cuddle? Satellizer. Confused. Cuddle. Isay. Smiles. Remember, we're not like other partners in which we can do things in our own way, such that we don't need to conform to the traditions that other Pandoras and limiters have done. We can take things slow and let it build up, besides with our issues it's perfect. Satellizer couldn't help but deny Isay's logic, since a small part of her was a bit hesitant of even doing the room entry in the first place. Since Isay explained to her that they don't really need to perform the traditions that other Pandora's limiters have to do, they could still see themselves as partners while not trying to rush into things. Satellizer couldn't help but inwardly smile since she felt that Isay proposed this compromise for her sake. Satellizer mind, smiles fondly. Thank you Isay, you truly are a kind person. Isay. Smiles. Well then shall we head to bed? Satellizer. Smiles. Of course. Isay. Smiles sheepishly. Sorry, I didn't think about it, but I'll have to sleep in my boxers and tank top if that's okay with you. Satellizer. Blushes. No, I don't mind. As Isay removed his clothes till all that was left was his black boxers and black tank top, Satellizer couldn't help but blush madly at Isay's muscular physique. It was like staring at a Greek statue carved out of marble. Then there were his birthmarks which helped complement his body. But when she saw the huge bite marks on his arms and legs she became concerned. Satellizer. Concern. Isay, what happened to you? Was it from the thugs earlier? Isay. Looks at his scars. No, this is why I was missing for a whole week. Satellizer. Concerned and curious. What happened? It was then Isay told her about how he had to stop a terrorist from destroying the world and that he had held both Momo and Keno hostage since the madman saw him as a threat to his plans. He then explains that he got the bite marks from Fenrir, Hadi, and Skoll, who had no choice but to obey him. Satellizer couldn't help but be horrified at what happened to him as she then gently touched the bite marks. Satellizer. Concerned. Does it hurt still? Isay. Serious. A little, but I can bear with it. Deciding to drop the subject they went to bed. Isay did this to make sure Satellizer didn't feel uncomfortable, but she greatly accepted Isay's warm embrace. Normally if someone would hold her like this then she would have felt that she was suffocating, but with Isay, she felt so warm and safe and a part of her didn't feel like going away. Meanwhile, within the many buildings in West Genetics Academy lies a swimming pool where 4 girls enjoy a midnight swim. The first one being Aisha Simmons, who was sitting on a table enjoying what seemed like a sundae. Ida smiled, so the untouchable has finally surrendered to the touch of another person. On the pool was a long red hair, with the inner side of her temporal locks curling inward over her cheekbones. She has amber-colored eyes. She was wearing a 2-piece pink bathing suit while laying on top a floaty casually floating through the waters. Sirius had happened to be a so-called dragon of the west, who turns out to be the infamous Red Nova Slayer. On the side of the pool sat a dark-skinned girl with white hair, grey eyes, and a large bust. She is taller than most of the other Pandora. She was also wearing a 2-piece swimsuit which was mostly white but had green accents along the side. Smirks, I do find him interesting, I'm hoping I can go around with him. Someone who supposedly killed more Nova than any Pandora alive must have some serious firepower, and I'm curious to see how I match up that. The final girl was a beautiful young woman with somewhat pale skin, large breasts, back-length curly blonde hair that has chest-length strands hanging on either side, dark blue eyes and an hergless figure. She was completely naked. She found the news about how the infamous untouchable queen allowed herself to be touched by another person. But she couldn't help but wonder who this dragon of the west was, since she didn't think much of him since he was a first year. But when news reached her that he was the elusive Red Nova Slayer, as well as being able to defeat both Miyabi and Ingrid, who are very powerful Pandora in their own right, then there was the message he essentially made Ida relay to her, which made her believe he was a serious problem that needed to be dealt with, but she needed more information, so she decided to ask Ida. Curious Ida. Ida, curious, yes Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Curious, that boy who is called the Dragon of the West, what is his name and what does he look like? Ida. Curious, why? Elizabeth. Serious, simple, I refuse to let an underclassman dictate what we do, and the more information we have on him the better. Ida. Smirks, well, even though he did technically threaten all of us third years, I was able to snag extra info on him through the school's database, which I will not lie was not easy. Elizabeth. Curious, really? What did you find? Ida. Smiles, his full name is Isay A.K.A. He's 16 years old with jet black spiky hair with red fringes on the side, he has crimson red eyes. It was then Elizabeth's eyes widened in shock, which didn't go unnoticed by the other 3 girls. Ida. Curious Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Shocked, it can't be hopeful, could it? It was then Elizabeth looked down on her wrist to where she was wearing a black dragon bracelet that she received from a boy that saved her life 6 years ago. Ever since then she has considered this bracelet as a good luck charm, her way to give her the confidence that she needed. She made a promise to herself that one day she would find that boy again someday and they could be together. Elizabeth mind, blushes while remembers fondly. Ice, is it really you? Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.